Okay, I would like to reconvene this meeting of the West Windsor Township Council for October 28th, 2019. Gay, have we been adequately noticed?
Yes, we were adequately noticed on January 11th, 2019 for the business session and for the closed session that we just came out of on October 24th to the Princeton Packet and the Times.
Please join me for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Jeevers?
Here.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Here.
Miller?
Yes.
Zhang?
Here.
Marlena?
Okay. This evening, the mayor has asked me to make an announcement on his behalf. The mayor is away on business. He was hoping to be back for the meeting. It's highly unlikely that he will be back. However, early this morning, when I arrived at my office here in West Windsor, I was informed of very sad news. We have lost Janet Pellicero, our administrative assistant to the Director of Public Works. She passed away unexpectedly this morning. Janet began working for the township in April 2019 after serving more than 20 years in municipal government in the town of Princeton. Janet was passionate about serving her community, serving others, and she touched many of our lives and will be missed very deeply. Our thoughts go out to Janet's family at this sad time. Janet, in the brief period of time that she was here, was instrumental in working with the administration on developing recycling bid specifications in light of the fact that our program increased in costs of over 40% because of changes in the recycling market. Janet was also very instrumental in providing input on the bid specifications that the town issued earlier in the year for a 5-year contract that council recently approved for solid waste collection and hauling for the next 5 years. Janet was extremely qualified at what she did. Janet was our certified recycling coordinator. She was highly recognized by her colleagues at the Department of Environmental Protection and among her other colleagues in the recycling community. And Janet, also to my surprise, was certified as a certified public works manager. I would, on behalf of the administration, I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize her and the loss of her. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlena. We're now up to public comment. Now, coming up in this meeting, we have a number of ordinances. And I'm asking you to please hold your public comment on any of those ordinances until the public hearing on that ordinance. But if you have public comment on a non-ordinance related issue, please come forward.
Teresa Lorenko?
Hi, Teresa Lorenko, 408 South Post Road. I'm here to speak about, there's a really great petition site that's out there at www.thepetitionsite.com. It's to ask people to sign a petition to stop Mercer County Park from the unnecessary development of Dam Site 21. And I just want to let, people are asking me about it here. It's Mercer County Park wants to spend $15 million on a new water park at Dam Site 21. Now, Dam Site 21 is directly across from Mercer County Community College. It's shared between Robbinsville, West Windsor, and Hamilton. I think I stated it's about 300 acres or so. I sent an email into the council asking you to please get involved. I wanted West Windsor, of course, to continue to, speak on behalf of the neighborhood and the residents, and to really, I can honestly say this, I hope that West Windsor doesn't continue to get the short end of the stick on this project. Our South Post Road and Old Trenton Road surrounding neighborhoods, we've just suffered enough with every other county project, such as 36,500 industrial-sized solar field at Mercer County Community College, and the very loud music that we experience from Mercer County Park. So I urge the council, as well as all of you here in West Windsor, especially all of you here. It's great to see so many people in the meeting house tonight, but there's a meeting being held at November 12th from 6:30 to 8:30 at Mercer County Community College, where in fact the county will present their draft proposal. It's my understanding that you have 60 days to offer a comment from that proposal. At the petition site, for example, they have gathered over 800 written signatures, and they have close to 500 online. So people are very, very concerned. I have such little time and so much to say. I just want to say this. It's very difficult dealing with the county. They make promises constantly. There's absolutely no accountability. They make, I have so much to say. I will submit this for the record. But it's very difficult to deal with them. They're not a good neighbor, and we've tried to meet with them. They've canceled meetings. They have paid over $10,000 for a flawed noise report. We asked for this report for 9 months. They hid it from us. Once they finally gave us the report after asking hundreds of times, we shared the noise report with 3 acoustical engineers, professionals, top of the line, of their field, and they basically said it was flawed data. It was a complete sham. There's no way an amphitheater should have ever been built facing our homes. It should have never been built, not even facing our homes, but so close to our homes. I've just learned that there's over 842 acres on the south side of Lake Mercer. 842 acres, and they have to put an amphitheater a quarter mile from my house. Just makes no sense whatsoever. So I just want you to know, we need to look at data with a critical eye, have experts look at this, because what they say, what they promise, what they deliver, 2 different things. I'm asking all of you to just please go to the petition site. We need your signatures. The county needs to hear that residents want to protect and preserve environmental lands. Lastly, can I just have 30 seconds,
Yes,
please? Okay,
please.
they were found in violation. If everyone thinks I'm just crazy talking about decimals and things along that line, I have that as well. And then unfortunately on Saturday, I needed to call 911 because there was an incident in the park. And I just would like Mercer County to spend $15 million on improving the park that's already there. All they have to do is have the rangers patrol a little bit more, but at 7 o'clock at night, I'm trying to back out of my driveway. There are 7 to 8 vehicles speeding outside of Mercer County Park. They then block my driveway. Unfortunately, I had to learn all this, but their cars were broken into. And they were following the perpetrators, the suspects, running into our neighborhood. So these cars were now following the people who are running, that are now running into our backyards. So they're flashing, they pull their cars so that the lights are flashing into our homes. Not flashing, but there's lights, headlights. We're being blinded. I mean, they were very, very, very angry. I thought maybe they just needed directions. They were lost. So I just asked my family, let's just go inside. I mean, this is not safe. This is not a safe environment. I went inside, I called the police, and, I needed to get on my way. So the cars moved along to the side of the roadway, and we left. But I would hate for Hamilton, Robbinsville, any of those residents who think they are living in a wonderful little neighborhood right now, for the county to come in and destroy it. So Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Hi, Wade Wilson. I'm actually staying on an Airbnb nearby, so I don't have a physical address in West Windsor. But what I wanted to say was, I went to all the stores today, and I didn't find a single chimichanga in a single store anywhere in West Windsor. So I want to ask for you to pass a resolution tonight to demand that we get chicken chimichangas, shrimp chimichangas, beef chimichangas, vegan chimichangas, and vegetarian chimichangas in every store in West Windsor. Thank you. That's all.
Andrea Mandel?
Okay, I don't know if I can, really top that, so I'll try. My name's Andrea Mandel, 46 Ellsworth Drive, West Windsor, New Jersey. I'm a member of the West Windsor Planning Board, Vice Chair of the West Windsor Environmental Commission. First, I would like to announce the Environmental Commission is informed today that Sustainable Jersey has awarded West Windsor a silver certification for our environmental achievements. The certification is good for the next 3 years. I'd like to thank everyone from both the Commission and the Township who helped us achieve both those actions and the extensive year-long application that led to this achievement. We'll be recognized at the Sustainable Jersey Luncheon at the New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference on November 19th in Atlantic City. Next, I want to discuss something as a resident, but I think it has a tremendous impact on both our environment and quality of life. That's the proposed development on the WWM Properties Westland on Route 571 in the area of McCaffrey's and CVS. I wish to encourage people to come to the zoning board meeting on November 7th to oppose this. While I've been walking around West Windsor talking to residents, there's a lot of concern about this kind of overdevelopment, its negative effects on schools, property taxes, and roads, but I'm finding that people are taking a fatalistic approach. I think there's nothing we can do. Some people even think that the residential development on the Howard Hughes property or WWM is a done deal. It's not. Both properties are zoned commercial, according to our master plan. They were bought as commercial properties by their current owners. Nobody can claim they switched anything on them. In 2017, many people thought the Howard Hughes concept plan for mixed-use development with almost 2,000 high-density units was a done deal. A small group of concerned residents got together, not only spoke before the planning board, but wrote position papers and convinced other residents to raise their voices. I was part of that tiny group. When Howard Hughes put on a pretty presentation at the Mercer Boathouse, we stood outside with our own literature and talked to people to tell them the truth. The uproar put a stop to plans that appeared at the time to be fast-tracked. So there's no reason for fatalistic approach. There's no reason for people to think it's a done deal, that there's nothing we can do, and all of those kinds of things. I'm here because there are things we can do. We've met our affordable housing obligation till 2025, and the residential developers have lost the sharpest arrow in their quivers, the threat of a builder's remedy lawsuit, claiming that we're dragging our feet meeting our quota. Only the planning board can change the master plan, and only the Township Council can change the zoning. So WWM is now trying to do so in the zoning board by asking for humongous land use variance to build 420 high-density affordable housing units. I am going to encourage everyone to go to the zoning board meeting on November 7th and let them know how you'll be negatively impacted. Trying to talk fast here. And how you'll be negatively impacted if this happens. You can make a difference, so please do try to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Hornsby?
Good evening, members of the council. Nice to see you all again.
Name and address for the record, please.
978 Alexander Road, Princeton Junction, New Jersey. I speak tonight as someone who's been involved in energy and environmental issues since the oil embargo back in the 1970s. Presently, I'm the adjunct professor for energy and the environment at the New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark. And I'm also a firefighter with the Princeton Junction Volunteer Fire Company. And on their behalf, I'm authorized to ask for your endorsement of the lease that's being proposed, whereby the fire department would lease land from the township for the installation of a 60-kilowatt solar PV array immediately behind the firehouse. The array would comprise roughly 1/8 plus acres of land and provide substantial benefits to the fire department. Namely, it would cut the cost of our electricity by a third. So given that we're a non-governmental organization, that's significant to us. Also, the solar PV would provide carbon-free electricity. As you're aware, climate change is a substantial issue, a major issue for everyone, and this PV array will cut our carbon emissions. And as we learned during the oil embargo, that generating electricity or generating energy literally in our own backyard provides national security benefits. So for all those reasons, I ask for your endorsement. At our last business meeting, the fire department unanimously endorsed both the lease agreement and the solar PPA agreement with our solar vendor. To put this in a little bit more perspective, there are already 167 PV arrays in West Windsor that are already online and operating, generating clean electricity, and ours would be the 9th largest one. So these benefits are not limited to just the fire department. The price of solar panels has come down so much that all of us can benefit from using solar and having both greener and cheaper electricity. So again, we urge the endorsement of the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Edwards?
Good evening, I'm Latoya Edwards, 249 Robbinsville, Edinburgh Road. These are my children, Aiden and Amanda. In full transparency, I did send an email to the mayor and the township and the chief and other town officials, and I thank you guys for all of your concern and responses. For the past 6.5 years, I've lived in Robbinsville, Edinburgh Road, and I've witnessed several accidents at the intersection of Robbinsville, Edinburgh Road, which is County Road 526, and Meadowbrook Road, which is the road coming from 130 from Robbinsville to West Windsor. The accident that occurred on Thursday, October 17th, was by far the worst my family has witnessed at that intersection. 2 cars collided at that intersection. However, both vehicles involved ended up on my front lawn. One of the vehicles actually landed literally in my hedges. Although both motorists walked away from the accident, my hedges were not so lucky. Okay. Motorists coming from West Windsor, or coming from Robbinsville to West Windsor, may not be aware that there is an intersection just where that road curves. In addition, motorists drive very fast down that road. I was speaking to a nice gentleman who told me that road was known as the concrete highway back in the day, and I can see why. I work from home, and I constantly hear tires screeching all day. The number of near misses at that intersection is really astounding. Since my family has moved into my house, I've had to ban my children from playing in the front yard for the fear of them getting hit by a vehicle. Although Robbinsville Edinburgh Road is a county road, is there any way for West Windsor to engage the county and/or Robbinsville Township to put up intersection signs and/or lay speed bumps or lines? My fear is that someone will be seriously injured or worse if accidents continue to escalate at that intersection. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Marlena, can the township speak to the county about this particular situation, because it sounds dire?
The engineer has been notified, and he and the police are assembling and looking at accident data, and they will be in touch with the county to discuss corrective measures that can be taken in the short term as well as in the long term.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to that.
Mr. Katz, do you want to do half of your speech? The firehouse part?
Lawrence Katz, 14 Orleans Street, West Windsor, New Jersey. Chair of the Environmental Commission and Commissioner on the West Windsor Parking Authority. And I'm here to endorse the fire department's contract agreement to purchase the solar power. And I think it'll generate clean energy, number one, reduce the fire department's electric bill, as Mike had mentioned, and to help to provide energy security, creating electricity literally in the fire department's backyard, in essence. In the past, we've had unique opportunities to help our town create unmatched resilience, and I hope that we won't lose this opportunity to support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Watrous?
Donald Watrous, 131 Cranberry Road. You're all familiar with me and a number of other Cranberry Road residents as we would come often and ask questions about the Cranberry Road sidewalk project. We thought we had a better avenue of getting information by talking to the township engineer, Mr. Guzik, but it seems to be running into a little problem. June 20th, I asked for a quick update from him by email, and July 7th, after getting no response, I followed up and got an out-of-office message stating that he would be back on the 8th. On the 8th, I got a fairly detailed status, giving the steps that would be needed to be accomplished, including a landscape architect and meeting with the affected owners, the design consultant doing a preliminary design and getting environmental permits and then putting the project out to bid. About 3 months later, on October 5th, I wrote to Mr. Guzik asking how things were progressing and possible time estimates for the different steps. This time I got an out-of-office message with no return date specified. A week later, after no response, I asked the mayor, who had been looped in on these emails, if he could learn when Mr. Guzik would be back. The next day I got a response that he would. On the 18th, I sent a message after no response yet saying, is he still out? And on the 23rd, another resident followed up in that email chain saying, is there any news? And that was the end of the conversation most recently. Is writing Mr. Guzik the best way to get status for this project? How often is reasonable to ask for updates? And does anybody have any more current status on the project? Thank you.
That would be, the administration would know that, not the council, unfortunately. We haven't had an update either.
Nor have I. I will speak with Mr. Guzik and get the information that
He is back then?
Excuse me?
He is back from the out-of-office notice I got October 5th? He's back in the office?
I'm assuming he is. I personally haven't sought him out today.
Okay.
I will look into the matter and get back to you, or he will get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for non-plastic bag. You did, Mr. Hinsdale? I didn't see you. I don't.
Maybe I came in late.
You must have come in after I picked it up. Yep, go ahead, Mr. Hinsdale.
Hi, John Hinsdale, 38 Quaker Road, and that is my real name and address. At the last council meeting on October 15th, a member of the community spoke about firearm ownership. He suggested that everyone in West Windsor arm themselves to, quote, Defend family, friends, and the people around you, unquote. As if West Windsor were a desert town in the Old West, and there were not already sworn police here to do that. He encouraged everyone in West Windsor to get a firearm and membership in the CRRC, which is the Citizens Rifle and Revolver Club. That's the place next to the waterworks pool where all the shooting noise comes from. He said we all need to have guns to defend our society and to be concerned about our government stealing away its citizens' freedom. Anyone who feels they need to keep a gun in their home here on the mean streets of West Windsor, New Jersey, to defend themselves from the marauding masses or the tyranny of the government, is nothing but a paranoid fool. When I moved to West Windsor 14 years ago, I looked into joining the CRRC to again take up range shooting, which I did in college, and found fun. However, when applying for membership to the CRRC, I discovered they will not accept anyone who doesn't belong to the NRA. The CRRC requires its members to be among the small 10% minority of gun owners who belong to that unsavory political organization. So that was a deal breaker for me. I know a number of moms who, when booking a play date with a family new to them, routinely ask if they keep guns in the house. Some worry about offending by asking the question. But I know of none so worried about offending that they neglect to ask the question. So everyone should ignore entirely the words of the speaker at last week's meeting advocating universal gun ownership in West Windsor and membership in the Citizens Rifle and Revolver Club, which implies membership in the NRA. Our town does not need to act on delusions of persecution, fear, and paranoia. President George Washington had a favorite quote from the scriptures about his home in Mount Vernon. He said, "Everyone shall sit under their own vines and under their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid."
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, administration comments?
I have several announcements. The first one is that Public Works crews are working in Zone 4 this week, collecting leaves and yard debris. I will read the following announcement because of its importance. Alexander Road Bridges Replacement Project. It's a reality. The planned start date for the Alexander Road Bridge Replacement Projects being undertaken by Mercer County and the New Jersey Department of Transportation is Wednesday, November 6, 2019. These projects will close Alexander Road, Alexander Street near the border of West Windsor and Princeton for 6 months, weather permitting, starting on the morning of November 6th. One of the proactive measures taken by the New Jersey Department of Transportation to help fight project-related congestion is their addition of a travel time signage program. This program will install vehicle readers and 11 variable message signs on the main roads into the region. These message signs will show drivers the current travel times on the different approach routes and will let those drivers traveling to this area make their best informed decision on what route to take. These VMS will be installed along I-295, Route 206, Princeton Pike, Route 1, as well as locally on Route 571 and the Alexander Road, Alexander Street approaches to the detour area. This is but one example of the commitment of both New Jersey Department of Transportation and Mercer County to the communities they are serving on these projects, of the measures being taken to attempt to mitigate projects-related congestion. Local residents, deliveries, patrons to businesses near the detour, and community services will be permitted through soft closures during the detour period. The hard closure at the bridges will be closed to all traffic, including pedestrians and cyclists. Drivers continue to be encouraged to make plans for alternate routes, alternate departure and/or arrival times, carpooling, mass transit, including the Dinky Line, telecommunicating, etc., as increased traffic congestion and delays are to be expected once the bridges are closed, especially during the peak hours. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I encourage our residents to sign up for Nixle if they haven't done so. Our police department will be providing regular updates about these two projects, and if there are conditions that necessitate the need for a notification about an additional detour being necessary, either due to weather conditions or traffic conditions, that's the best and quickest means of getting that information real-time from our police department. So it's not too late to plan ahead. On Monday, November 11th, municipal offices will be closed in observance of Veterans Day, and at the invitation of the American Legion Post 76, Mayor Marate, and the Township Council, there will be a short ceremony taking place at Dutch Neck World War II Monument in remembrance of those residents of West Windsor who fought in World War II. That short ceremony begins at 10 a.m. At 10:30 a.m., there'll be a laying of the wreath at the All Wars Memorial at the West Windsor Municipal Complex, 271 Clarksville Road. And at 11 a.m., the Veterans Day ceremony will take place at the American Legion Centennial Memorial, located also at the West Windsor Municipal Complex. After the ceremonies, all are invited for refreshments and a chance to share and remember together. If you have any questions or require additional information, please contact Gay Huber, our township clerk. And then the final announcement has to do with the fact that while Veterans Day is a federal holiday, there will be garbage collection on Monday, November 11th. Please be sure your trash is out no later than 6 a.m. to ensure that it is collected. That's all of the announcements I have.
Thank you. Council member comments, Virginia?
Okay, with regard to Ms. Lorenko and the comments on Dam Site 21, I've been following that as well. I have spoken with the mayor about that, and we discussed possibly putting together a resolution for us to come from the council and the mayor to the county with our thoughts on that. I know the mayor of Hamilton has already sent a letter to them as well, so I think that's an environmental issue that we don't want to ignore. We talk a lot about overdevelopment in town, but, you know, that's a big piece of undeveloped land that I think we would want to preserve. Congratulations on the silver certification for environmental achievements, and also thank you to members of the Princeton Junction Volunteer Fire Company for coming out tonight. And I was wondering, Allison, if we can move their resolution up earlier.
I have a plan.
Okay, great, thank you. That's it.
Okay, Aisha?
To the members, and Mike Hornsby, some members of the Princeton Junction Fire Department, I am so thrilled that you are doing this. Mike, I know you worked really long and hard on trying to get this solar panel initiative through, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? And I'm thrilled that you didn't give up, and that it's not the same program, and it's not the same parameters or benefit to the township, but you're moving this ball in the right direction. And it's really an important move by the leadership of the Princeton Junction Fire Department, and I appreciate the Environmental Commission's endorsement. This is a really great thing for our township, so thank you.
Okay. Linda?
Well, congratulations to the Environmental Commission on the silver certificate. I believe that's still the highest level. I don't know whether they've gotten the gold yet, so it's just silver, so that's good. Thanks to Larry Katz, Andrea Mandel. Are there any other commissioners from the environmental? Teresa Warman. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anybody. Well, thank you. Thank you for your work, because I realized as a liaison many years ago when Mike Hornsby was the Environmental Commission Chair, all the work that you put in, so thank you. Appreciate that very much. As far as Teresa Larenko's comments, Dam Site 21, yes, I'm glad that you're working on that. I did try to communicate with the mayor on that to see if there was, put together some comments from the township's perspective, so I'm glad you're working on that. Ms. Edgewords, I had emailed her back. I guess Chief Garofalo is working on some of the issues there, safety and accidents that have occurred in her area of town. What else? And also, certainly my sympathies to Janet Pellicero's family. She certainly made a lot of contributions while she's here. All her work was much, much appreciated. We are grateful for her service to our community, and we will always remember her and we thank her.
Wisey?
Yeah, I want to congratulate to Environmental Commission as well. Being the liaison, very happy to see the job well done. I don't know the final number, but I'm sure it's way above and beyond the silver certificate requirements, because I remember when we submitted, it was like 200 point or something above, something like that. But I will find the detail later. And also I want to echo my colleagues in thanking the fire department to take an important initiative to move our town into the right direction. I think alongside with another ordinance we're going to talk about soon, that is the single plastic bag ban. I think these are the things that really help us move into the right direction and protect the environment. So thank you. And thank you all for attending the meeting. This is a big turnout, and we wish up here we'll have more audience like that in the council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to extend my personal condolences to the family of Janet Pellicero. She served her township well, and it was a really unexpected tragedy. Thank you to the members of the Environmental Commission. I went to a number of meetings, and I saw how hard everybody worked to get all those points towards the silver certificate. And we have the silver certificate, and maybe in 3 years there will be a gold certificate that we can go towards. I have great sympathy with Teresa Larenko, and I wish that Mercer County had thought before they put in the stage so close to residents in West Windsor. And I'm glad that Linda and Virginia are looking into perhaps a resolution which West Windsor Township Council can pass next month. And I would like to know more about the development there than I know. So maybe that resolution could come with a sketch plan or something, because...
If you want, Madam President, there is on the county website, it links up to the park website, and from there, it has the whole PowerPoint presentation that was shown at the last two meetings, and I think some documents for the upcoming meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
So that'll help, and it's for everyone else. You could take a look at some of the proposals that they're...
I think that would be very helpful. Thank you. And to answer Andrea, I have also been reassuring people as I go door to door that we're against the idea of rezoning commercial to residential for all the reasons which she articulated. And that's something that is universal among the people in the know, and the people up here, and the people who want to be up here. We all know that overdevelopment, especially with school children and people who commute, is something we don't want in West Windsor. And we don't want coming through West Windsor, which is another issue. And I'm glad that we're following through with what Ms. Edwards said about the intersection there. And just on another issue, I went to Trunk or Treat, and it was lovely. So, thank you for the Recreation Commission and the police and everyone else who was there, and I'm sure it would have been even more splendid if it hadn't started to rain in the middle. Anyway, Gay, do you have what?
I had a quick question for Mike on the county issue.
Okay.
So Mike, as we, as our colleagues go through and either develop a resolution or some form of guidance to the county, do you represent the county?
I do not.
Okay.
And
so-
this is not actually the county, this is the Park Commission, which is a separate entity.
And you don't represent them, so we
No,
just
I
want to make
represent
sure we
the
have.
legislative body, which is the freeholders, who have nothing to
Okay.
do with this. But again,
So wouldn't the freeholders have to vote on something from the Park Commission?
they would not, no.
Okay.
It's, again, totally separate entity. The Park Commission makes the determination on this
So
matter.
we have to go to the county site, and from there get to the
Or
Parks
just go straight to the
Commission.
Mercer County Parks site. I mean, you could even probably put the link up on our website. But it shows various presentations that were made, including a PowerPoint presentation and the various development suggestions that are made by the consultant.
Thank you.
You know, it goes everywhere from, just a walking path, a walking and a bike path, to a swimming area, to kayak area, to some other facilities.
Okay, thank you. Gay?
Okay. The election is next Tuesday, November 5th. Polls will open at 6 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. And I just would like to remind the candidates that you are not allowed to bring food to the poll workers. Just want to keep you out of trouble.
You have some angry poll workers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not supposed to, but yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we have here people who want to talk about plastic bags and people who are interested in the firehouse lease. The firehouse lease issue will be very quick. So do we have a motion to move that in the agenda up to now?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Okay, so we now have 2019 R236.
Authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a lease amendment with the Princeton Junction Volunteer Fire Company for additional property for the installation of a ground-mounted solar array.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Now you can go. If
Thank you so much, everybody, for working on this. I just want to thank everybody for working on that. It was a joint effort between many people at the fire department. The mayor worked on it. It's great to see it getting done.
Thank you. We appreciate your
Thanks for
efforts.
coming, too.
A lot of work. Thank you.
Okay, we do have 4 public hearings, but the first 3 should be quick, so let's get them over with.
2019-30, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 74, Article 1, DWI drug-free zones of the Code of the Township of West Windsor.
So I'm opening the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak on this issue? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yeah.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
2019-31, an ordinance to establish a salary and wage plan for the Township of West Windsor and provide for the administration thereof for police lieutenants, patrol, and sergeants.
I'd like to open the public hearing on this. Does anyone want to speak on it? Seeing none, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Okay. 2019-33, an ordinance providing for improvements to the municipal complex in and by the Township of West Windsor in the County of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $4,921,400 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,300 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'd like to open the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak on this?
Hello, Kathy Brennan, 1 Courtney Drive. So when I first saw this 2 weeks ago, I thought it was an awful lot of money, but then I went and looked at the 2014 proposal, and that's what it costs. There's a lot that there's planning on being done, and as you all know, I was very active in 2014 about the municipal complex, and I walked around the complex with Marlena and Linda, and I would just like to say with the money and the plans that perhaps the township could consider putting sidewalks in from Clarksville Road to the back entrance of the municipal building, since the front door is usually locked where the sidewalk goes up. And according to, I know there's going to be new plans, but according to these plans, it was hard to tell what was going to happen to the front door. So when you're on Clarksville Road, you cannot get into the municipal complex. There's no sidewalks.
Where are you proposing it, Kathy?
From Clarksville Road into the driveway, into the parking lot.
So instead of like this diagonal
The front door is
thing?
locked mostly. You cannot walk that sidewalk and get into the municipal complex. That door is usually locked.
Oh.
So you have to walk all the way around, and then there's no sidewalk. When you come in Clarksville Road and where it comes to Everett Drive, there's
I
no sidewalk
understand.
coming into the municipal complex.
Okay.
It's just, it's not much, and it's just, I walk the area, so it's just annoying. And then people drive fast, even in the municipal complex.
Right.
And the other thing is that when they're looking at this project, perhaps they could do something with the old Sassoni house. Perhaps they can finally demolish it or put up a shed if there's money left in the $4 million. And then in 2014, it was mentioned to me on one of my walks around the municipal complex, and I think it was by one of the West Windsor detectives, that they're running out of evidence room and they would love to have more room for evidence. So redoing the municipal complex, perhaps there's an area in here where the police could use it for overflow evidence. But I was told this in 2014. And the last thing is, my favorite topic is the post office. I'll be real quick. So there's $5,000 budgeted for landscaping. And I don't know if that was used, Marlena, because
I don't know what document you're referring to, I'm sorry.
it's a capital budget. And it was $5,000 for landscaping on the municipal track, and I thought that money was going to go to pull up the dead bushes around the chain link fence in the post office, and new shrubs were supposed to be planted.
I will confer with the facilities maintenance manager to
Okay,
find...
because when the post office was put up, we were told that the chain link fence would be invisible, and that's over 20 years ago, and it still has not been fixed. And I would just, real quick, is that this is a commercial, the post office is a commercial facility. If this was a private company, it would never be allowed to operate the way it does next to a neighborhood. You guys would have made them hide the loading dock. You would have made them, the planning board would have made them do all sorts of things so it was not exposed to the neighborhood. But because it's a government facility on government property, they do what they want. And you all know, I've been here many years asking for something to be done about the chain link fence and for the loading dock to be camouflaged somehow. It's an eyesore. And it would never get away, private company would never get away with that. And of course, you all know that. So that's what I have to say. And I'm happy that that the renovations will be done and hopefully the roof will stop leaking. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
2019-34, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 148, solid waste, adding Articles 4, single-use plastic bag reduction of the Code of West Windsor Township. Do you want to go by how they signed up, Madam President?
Yes, and then anyone else who wants to speak should speak after the people who signed up.
Okay, the first person I have is Remy.
Hi. My name is Rima Yakobovich, 46 Saratoga Drive, West Windsor, New Jersey, 08550. Okay. I am oppose extra charge for plastic bags, shopping plastic bags. I am opposing it because it's really uncomfortable to go to store like Wegmans or ShopRite or McCaffrey and buying the same your reusable bag, fish and cake and smelly cheese. You really need a plastic bag. You get meat which is usually leaking. You need a plastic bag. The same, it's uncomfortable to go to a shopping mall to shop for a nice dress or shoes or jacket and bring with me my reusable bags. There is a comfort, and these bags actually in big brand name stores used as a marketing. Of course, it's not that comfortable to bring this every time when I'm going spontaneous shopping. I will just not buy stuff. I will be hurt. Local businesses will be hurt. But looks like this United States spending, giving to common pollution 0.01% of plastic pollution, we have a big problem with this. These plastic bags somehow are a big problem. But of course, you can go to Trader Joe or in store like that and buy everything in your own bag because the rest of the food there is already prepackaged in a plastic bags. But of course, their plastic bags is not a problem. You can go to buy garbage bags, leaves bags, freezer bag, gallon bags, storage bag, lunch bag, Ziploc bags, all kind of bags. You're paying for these bags, and these bags anymore not a problem. So problem is, I am paying for these bags or not paying for this bag. Because if I'm paying for this bag, it's not a problem for environment. When I'm not paying, it is a problem. I would like to know, when I am buying this leaves, garbage, and other bags, how this money used? Does this money used to recycle this plastic or not? And if it's not, why this time when I will pay, it will be used properly to recycle it? Why I am, as consumer, has to be punished and buy extra bags when I am reusing them and recycling them? Why not to punish people who is not using this plastic, who is polluting, who is actually creating a problem? Is this the only problem with charging me and creating revenue? Or this is a problem about pollution? Tell me, one of these two has to be done. Because it's hurting me as a customer and hurting local stores, because I will not spontaneously buy stuff from them. This is why I'm opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Hi, council members. I'm Michael Rosenberg. I'm here to express my
Can
opposition
you
to
give
the
your street address too, please? I'm sorry.
46 Saratoga Drive, West Windsor, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I'm here to express my opposition to the tax on the plastic bags. The plastic bag issue should not be handled by the local government. If anything, it should be handled by the state. I don't see why this should even be open for any discussion over here. It doesn't really make sense. It's a much bigger issue. I mean, if there's some other better way to do it. If you put on a tax on a plastic bag, it should be put on a referendum. It should be voted on. I mean, it's like, how do you go ahead and you start charging people for something? I mean, where is the money going to go? At least if it's on a referendum, we can understand where the money's going, how the money's going to be used to, recycle or whatever you want to do with this. Currently, people have an option when they're going to the store to take the plastic bag or not. It's up to them. So what ends up happening over here, you're kind of having collective punishment. So basically, everybody gets punished for using a plastic bag, even though some people maybe are polluters. Maybe we should kind of go after the polluters. You should go ahead and have people policing that or trying to track that down to ways to do it. I mean, this is not a ban on plastic bags from what I understand. You're trying to tax them. So basically, if you're trying to tax them, the bags are going to be out there. You're not doing anything to get them off the street, so to speak. And if we, the whole thing with the plastic bags is also, it's like, where does it end? Because it's like, if you're talking about just the shopping bags, that's one thing. But you have Ziploc bags, you have garbage bags, you have other plastics, so now we're going to start taxing all plastics? I mean, this is a Pandora's box. Who knows where it's going to go? You're going to increase the costs on everything. And why is it, as a municipality, we're trying to kind of handle this? You're only going to be hurting local businesses. That's what's going to happen. So in conclusion, if West Windsor goes down this slippery slope, what are you trying to accomplish? Just, we're not near the water, so to speak. We're kind of like, a small fish in a big pond, which is the world. I mean, if you want to look at other countries, they have much bigger problems with causing pollution into the world than we do. You shouldn't have to do collective punishment on everybody for just a few people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Karina?
Hi, Karina Bisgair, 7 Villa Drive. I'm speaking in support of the plastic bag ban ordinance. My kids were here earlier and they were going to speak, but unfortunately it was bedtime, so I sent them away. But it's interesting, we walk our neighborhood all the time, and there are waterways in West Windsor. In fact, we see plastic bags all the time in the water at the tennis park on Hendrickson Drive. That there's a little bit of water back there and it's constantly clogged with plastic bags. We see plastic bags in Grover's Mill Pond all the time. Everywhere we go, we see plastic bags. I really think that West Windsor can raise our voices on this issue. We're a very privileged town. We're filled with educated people. Why wouldn't it be up to us to take a stand and to join those other towns in New Jersey who have created a ban? There are countries around the world who have created a ban because it is a pollution problem. I have one child who decided she was going to become a pescatarian, which is fantastic, but then she learns all about the microplastics that she's ingesting because she's eating fish. It's really scary, and I think the 10 cents is really a way of educating people and deterring people and getting them to change their behavior. I don't see it as a tax, but I do see it as a deterrent. I think that if people were charged 10 cents, they would leave their cart for a minute and go back to their car and grab their reusable bags. I don't keep any plastic bags. I never take plastic bags from the grocery store, and yet I still have a huge bag full of plastics that I add to the bag recycling to get the park bench or whatever. I was just happy to have some place for those plastic wrappings to go, because it's endless. Like, everything's wrapped in plastic. So even if you don't get a plastic bag, you still end up with tons and tons of plastics. I just feel like this is one small thing that we could do as a town to kind of put a stake in the sand to say, we care about this issue, we care about our environment, we are privileged enough to be able to have tons of reusable bags. We just have to teach people to actually use them. And I feel like we can use our voices to educate people and to get them to change their behavior. You know, when I was a kid, it was all, give a hoot, don't pollute. Like, that's gone. But we should have some kind of initiative. You know, at Whole Foods, they have signs in the parking lot, remember your reusable bags. We can do that around town. It's not about the mom and pop businesses as much as it is about the Walgreens and the huge businesses that just give you a plastic bag. Honestly, a lot of times, even if you tell them 2 or 3 times I don't need a bag, they still go for the plastic bag. And my favorite is when you tell them I don't need a plastic bag, they go for the plastic bag and you're like, I don't need a bag, and they're like, oh, and then they throw it away. It's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa?
Teresa Warman, 5 Stoneleigh Drive, West Windsor. I think no matter what happens tonight, we've already won because we're already shaping behavior. A year ago, when we started this, we had Maura Toomey from Clean Water Action and Amy Goldsmith come. She organized she helped organize a reusable, disposable booth staffed by high school students at the West Windsor Parking Authority Food and Craft Fair, and you could get reusable bags like this. They were $5. Now, this one is from ShopRite. You can get it for 99 cents, and at Target, you can get them for 99 cents. So our merchants are listening. Our merchants were the first groups of people that we spoke with last summer, and that's part of the packet that was before the council. And they are watching us, and they are reducing the price of reusable bags. Plastic waste is a problem. There are a bunch of exemptions to speak to, I think what Mr. Rosenberg was saying. There are a bunch of exemptions here for bags you use within the store, right? For fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, for frozen foods, for wrapped flowers, for bakery goods, for prescription drugs, for your newspaper bags, for when you walk your dog. Those are not subject to this ordinance. So this is a real common sense ordinance. We're starting with the low-hanging fruit of single plastic use bags at point of sale. And to follow up on a discussion we had last time when this was introduced, Mr. Herbert and I have had some back and forth. I have Mr. Pizarro here from the Watershed Institute. He's an attorney and policy director there. And of course, we have Jen Coffey, executive director of ANJAC. We did some research. We circulated a memo. We found several cases, and I cited to one, State versus Hertz, where someone who improperly disposed of decomposing plastic waste was fined by a township. And there's no question in our minds that townships have the authority to regulate what is solid waste, what is discarded material in the form of these single-use plastic bags. So I urge the council to take action tonight. At the very least, we have a long phase-in period for this. We will do public education. We will do awareness. This is about changing behavior and moving away from what is clearly a contaminant and discarded material that the township has the ability to regulate, like the 36 or so towns in our state that have done that. And just very quickly, I talk constantly to our state senators, and our state legislature is in deadlock. The previous speaker is right. It would be great if the state legislature took action, but I am not holding my breath. They are in deadlock, and it's up to the town to take action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, with regard to the statement about the Hertz case, the Hertz case has to do with public nuisance, with trash being left out and being a nuisance to the community. What we're talking about here is a solid waste stream. Hertz case has no application here.
Thank you.
450 pounds of plastic waste was picked up by Friends of West Windsor in 2 litter pickups. We have Kristen Epstein here, who wrote a letter. I mean, I think there's a clear analogy. It's discarded material.
It's apples and oranges.
Okay.
We aren't going
beg
to
differ.
We're not going to argue fruit.
Maura Toomey.
Hi, my name's Maura Toomey. I'm from Clean Water Action, New Jersey. I'm our organizer on plastics, so I'm coming to you as an expert to share, what I've learned working on this with other towns so that you don't have to go over the same issues. There's a lot of towns have already passed these and they're going well and they're not hurting businesses. So I'm happy to offer myself as a resource if you have questions. I want to start by saying that. I also want to echo what Terza mentioned about this being about behavior change. I hesitate to even call it a plastic bag ban because what it really is a reusable bag ordinance. The goal is to change the behavior. It's not about the material itself. While the material itself is harmful in a lot of ways, the core problem is the way that we use it. And so these ordinances have been extremely effective at starting to create those habit changes. So I would love to see you work on this at the town. Education is not enough. We've been talking about educating people for decades and decades. Well, I learned about this when I was a kid, and it's becoming, the crisis is only growing. So education is certainly not enough, especially when fossil fuel companies are manufacturing a demand for single-use plastics that kind of allows for behaviors to stay the same. And so that's why it's really necessary to take action at the local level, because even though it might seem small, or that we can't keep passing it on to somebody else to take care of, it has to start at the grassroots level, and that's where it does start, and it already is starting. Over 40 towns have already passed ordinances, and most of them were within the past year. So it is working. So I just want to encourage you to really think about this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that any people have about the impact on businesses or any of those details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Coffey.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Coffey. I'm the Executive Director for ANJAC. We're located in Mendham, New Jersey, but we serve the entire state of New Jersey. Much of what I had wanted to say already has been spoken to you. I do want to repeat what I said when I was here with you on October 15th, that this is a very real global problem as well as a local problem. This is a priority issue for ANJAC. And one of the major motivating pieces of data behind that is a study by the World Economic Forum that tells us that if we continue to use single-use plastics the way that we are, by 2050, by the time my 10-year-old niece is my age, we will have more plastic than fish in the ocean. This is a solvable problem. This is a problem that we can solve for our world as well as for West Windsor. As we heard, there are over 400 pounds of garbage, of trash that is picked up in West Windsor every year. Much of that is plastic. We are now in a position where 91 ordinances banning single-use plastic have been adopted by New Jersey municipalities. As you've heard Maura testify, more than 40 of those deal with plastic bags. There are a number of ordinances that also address plastic utensils, polystyrene, balloons. There were 2 major actions since the last time I stood before you on October 15th by 2 counties. One of them being Camden County, which has now banned plastic bags, straws, stirrers, and utensils on all county facilities and at events. And Bergen County has done the same. ANJAC is very much in support of statewide legislation. I was with a number of legislators last week, and unfortunately, we have seen no action in Trenton. There is a bill pending. I know that there are amendments to that bill pending. We are hopeful that they will move forward in lame duck, but we cannot count on that. What we can do is really control and change what is happening here in your town with your action tonight. What we can also do is send a strong message to Trenton to say, West Windsor is in support of solving this problem, and we've done our part locally. Now you legislators, we want you to do your part at the state level. So I encourage you to vote yes on this ordinance tonight. I encourage you to join with the municipalities who have now passed 91 ordinances working to solve the single-use plastic problem, and with the 2 counties who have boldly taken action in the last 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Epstein.
Hello, I'm Kristen Epstein, 11 Madison Drive. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We've all heard that, right? That's not choose one of the 3. That is written in order for a reason. Reduce is number 1. If you can't reduce or reuse, your last choice is to recycle. To recycle something takes tons of energy. It creates more waste products. So first you have to reduce. You have to reduce new products, things that are only used once or a couple of times. We have to reduce. Not only do plastic bags and other plastics clog our storm drains, they also contaminate our recycling bins. So even when we want to recycle, we're contaminating our own recycling bins. We're at a crisis in the United States with our recycling. And a lot of it is because of plastic bags. People have good intentions, but they do it wrong. And it messes up the whole system. Now, I'm an environmental engineer. I have a PE, a professional engineering license, and I am assistant director of a major municipal water and sewer utility in the state of New Jersey. My utility provides clean drinking water for 250,000 people in New Jersey. We have to treat chemicals that end up in the rivers and in the aquifers. Chemicals are very, very difficult to get rid of in drinking water. We're very good at getting bacteria and viruses out of the water and major large dirt and debris and things like that. Chemicals, synthetic chemicals, are very, very difficult to treat. Now, creating plastic, microplastics, is a problem, but it's all the other chemicals that are used to create the plastics that's actually the bigger problem. So we need to reduce the amount of stuff we're producing. It's contaminating our drinking water, it's contaminating our food chain, and my gosh, we all wish we could do more with this ordinance. We wish we could ban all plastics worldwide, but we can't. So let's take this first step. Let's do this one little step that'll move the ball forward so we can improve our environment and we can get out of this vicious cycle of recycling and using things once. We have to reduce. Thank you.
Mr. Katz.
Do I have to repeat my address?
Yes, you do. And your
Lawrence
name,
Katz,
please.
14 Orleans Street, West Windsor.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak because we have so many
Larry, can you
experts
speak into
here.
the microphone a little bit more, please? Thanks.
I'm short. I wasn't going to speak because we have so many experts here, but I just, and I'm speaking on a personal behalf, not on as the chair of the Environmental Commission or as a representative of Trader Joe's. But I have to say that It is a global problem, and it is an educational problem. And with recycling, as it's changed over the past year or so with the international issues that we have, it does take education. And plastic bags is the easiest thing to educate people on. As a personal example, I work at Trader Joe's, and I've watched over the years how I guess people have changed their approach and their behavior. And a year ago, Trader Joe's banned plastic bags from the end result of packaging groceries. We have bags that are 99 cents. I've watched people come in and out now and change their behavior completely. And if they forget their plastic bags, their reusable bags, I'm sorry, and they come in the store, they end up going back outside, going to their car and getting their reusable bag. And you can see how the behavior has changed completely. And I think it's just a matter of education, and I think that we can do a better job of doing that and supporting this ordinance. It's an important first step. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, I'm going to say it wrong. Pagarvo? Yes. Sorry, it looked like a G. Sorry. That's okay.
Good evening. My name is Mike Pissarro. I am the Policy Director for the Watershed Institute, which is at 31 Titus Mill Road. You may know it as more Stony Brook Millstone Watershed Association. First, thank you very much for introducing this ordinance. We support it. You've heard of some of the issues regarding plastics. I can also personally attest, having done a couple stream cleanups over the years here in West Windsor, plastic bags are in our waterways, they're in our streets, they're in our environment. You've heard of sort of the problems of plastic bags, but the real question is, as I understand it in part, can West Windsor adopt this ordinance? And I think it is clear you can. So, just a couple things. You clearly have police powers to protect the health and welfare of the public. The New Jersey Constitution prescribes that that power be interpreted liberally to effectuate the full effect of those laws and ordinances. So that's enshrined in our Constitution. So the legislature gave the towns the power to protect and promote the health and welfare, and the Constitution said you should take that to the fullest extent. Now, I've done some research. I have not found a single case in court right now challenging the authority of any of the plastic bag bans. One would think when Paramus did it, merchants would have been jumping up and down and challenging that, but they have not. Also, sort of mirroring our federal government, so Home Rule has provided an opportunity for municipalities to address local needs in a local way. And just because you may have a statewide issue, there may be local particularities that cause the locals to do something. And as our Supreme Court has said, if we wait for the state to act, sometimes we'll be waiting forever. When I first started my environmental advocacy career, stormwater utilities, I think it was in 2008, was up as a bill. It took 10, 11 years for that actually to become passed. So just because there is legislation doesn't mean that it's going to be today, tomorrow, next year, or the year after. And there's no statute, either in the solid waste, the clean communities, or any other statute I can find that clearly preempts this body's and West Windsor's authority to do this. And without that clear intent, municipalities are free to do it. We have multiple scenarios where the state has said, no municipality, you cannot regulate this. For example, the Freshwater Wetlands Protection Act clearly says, municipalities, you cannot regulate freshwater wetlands in any way, shape, or form. I have seen nothing that suggests that that dictate applies to this ordinance. And as another speaker said, reduce. This will reduce our use of plastics. It may not be perfect, it may not cause all of our reductions, but it is a great step and it will help West Windsor continue its leadership role. So thank you, and again, I urge you to enact this ordinance.
DJ Varna.
Hello, DJ Varner, 13 Amherst Way, and you probably remember I've been speaking in support of the bag ordinance, so I'm here to support it again tonight. And I just wanted to share something that I picked up literally on one of my runs recently on Thursday of this past week. Chamberlain Park, and this came from Community Park, West Windsor Community Park. I'm sorry for dropping them there. It's probably disturbing to have our hall littered by that, but this is what's happening outside every day. And I run a lot and I pick up a lot of litter, but please, the power is in your hands to help close the spigot on this plastic waste. This is kind of the tip of the iceberg for plastic, but it's so easily solvable. For years, we've been having a supply of reusable bags in our car because, let's face it, if you're in West Windsor, you're most likely driving to Wegmans or the Trader Joe's or whatever big box, and it's definitely not a feeling of being punished to take those bags and reuse them. They're easily cleaned through the miracle of modern packaging. There's almost nothing that leaks in them anymore from the grocery store, but they're easily cleaned. So please act, you can, and one of the strongest measures you can take to ensure that this is taken up at a higher level, as other speakers have said, is to pass the ordinance here. Industry and higher levels of government will be listening. And this is something that has to happen as a groundswell, apparently. So please act on our behalf now. Thank you very much, and I will clean up the litter.
That's all I have on my list. Unless, you can stand.
You need a vacuum here as well.
Sunita, go. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Everybody will have a chance to speak.
So I'm just going to bring these bags up front so you can see them. I'm not going to dump them out, but I think it's helpful to get some sort of reference of what one person's bag
Taking you out, Mike.
sort of looks like.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Bainey Suri, and my address is 19 Chestnut in Princeton, New Jersey. And I came back to Mercer County after a 33-year absence, settling in Princeton, New Jersey, where we've been working to pass this ordinance. And I do want you to get some sense of what 500 bags looks like. If you took the population of the state of New Jersey, and I think at the last census, I can't remember what it was, but if you multiplied it by the number of bags that an individual uses, you're talking about 4.4 billion bags in the state of New Jersey. These bags do not biodegrade, they don't go away, they clog your waterways, they affect the ability of people to recycle properly, and they are contaminating the environment. And if you take action and pass an ordinance, you're going to set an example, not just for the county, not just for the state, but for the United States of America. Each town that takes the action to boldly move forward on legislation like this helps to push other towns and cities and countries to take that kind of action. And if we wait for the state to act, they're not going to act until things become confusing or so muddled that they have to actually get involved. And we've seen one town in Mercer County pass an ordinance, and it would be an incredible thing to see West Windsor step forward and pass an ordinance. The powerful thing about courage is that it's contagious, and you will absolutely not just have an effect on West Windsor, you will push Princeton to take action on this ordinance. And we have been working for 9 long years to try to get our council to pass something. And the wonderful thing about these ordinances, we don't have to debate whether or not they're effective. You can look and see, there's plenty of data. Australia passed a bag ban, and within the first 3 months, they cut plastic bag usage by 80%. And that was just by 2 large retailers stopping the use of the plastic bags. People don't stop taking plastic bags unless there's mandatory action for them to do it at a level where it's impactful. I have been working on this issue for 9 years. It's very important to me. And my mother will still bring me, on occasion, Indian food from home in a plastic bag. But the first day she goes to the store and has to pay 10 cents, she will not take that bag. These ordinances are effective. You can see the data across the state, across the United States, and across the world. And I am here tonight to implore you to take some bold action, to step forward and lead, because Mercer County is looking, and the state is looking, and people will appreciate your efforts well beyond just West Windsor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Young. I'm from 112 South Longfellow Drive. I'm a senior in high school currently, and my college Fs are due in 3 days. But I sat here for 1.5 hours just to make this short 3-minute speech, which would show you how important this issue is to this township and to the world. I've seen a lot of discussions about the plastic bag here and outside the county town hall, which I highly appreciate, because no matter what your view on this topic is, we can all agree that debating it is important. And it's an important issue, not just for our town, but also for our state, our country, and our world. And across local and national divides, we can see other governments successfully enacting a single-use plastic bag ban, as many others have mentioned tonight. It's no longer a question of, is there a better way to do this? Because we've seen the practicality of a ban in other New Jersey towns, other U.S. states, and other countries in the world. People argue that plastic bags are too much of a convenience for us to consider a ban right now, but that convenience is the very reason we should choose a ban over any other alternative, like education or setting up a special recycling center. These are good solutions, but on their own, they don't work. Improper usage and disposal of these bags is something that our township and the people in it does unconsciously. Some people might reduce their plastic bag usage if educated, and some might just take a weekly trip to a special recycling center for plastic bags, but I can guarantee you that most people will not do this. You are asking our citizens to do something that can very easily fall into the territory of the tragedy of the commons. In other words, it won't matter if I don't change my habits, because at the end of the day, there's thousands of other people in the township that can do that instead for me. Only a ban will provide the necessary incentive for West Windsor citizens to convert to reusable bags in a reasonable time frame. The Constitution of the United States was framed in such a way that representatives such as you people can move forward with wise decisions independently. So as one of my favorite TV show characters says, we're all in the same boat. Let's prevent it from sinking together with the plastic bag ban. Thank you.
Yan Mei Wang, 41 Montgomery Street. I want to comment about my own experience with the single-use plastic bag reduction. I first heard about this concept 2 years ago when my parents from California visited me during Christmas, and they were envying the fact that I have a limited amount of plastic bag in my house, and I can use as many as I can. And then I realized, oh, that's because they don't have them anymore. They had a ban in California. And so I said, oh, and this is the first time it's a new concept, and okay. And then fast forward, so during the last 2 years, I was educated on the concept, and I became I changed from a person that was using the plastic bag for my trash and everything to I become the person that literally when I go to the store and forgot my bag, I will go out of the store and get my bags. So that was the change. I want to comment on two facts that I observed. What happens if you have a plastic bag, single-use plastic bag ban in California? So I went back to California this summer to visit my family, and I was paying attention to to the environment. I was looking closely at the beach. I want to see are there any bags litter around the streets, around schools. And during the July 4th holiday, the parks are full of people for the celebration, but I see the park full of people, but no bags. So that was very clean. I see in the future, if we do reduce single-use plastic bags in West Windsor, as part of the Friends of West Windsor open space cleanup effort this year of the 400 pounds plastic waste in along Clarksville Road, I will see our effort next year will be significantly reduced. And also another fact, how effective is this 10 cents per bag charge in terms of deterring people from using single-use plastic bags? So at the grocery stores in California, I have been to many stores, and then they ban the plastic bag, but they have the plastic bag on the counter, and then the cashier will offer every time at every transaction, do you want to buy a bag for 10 cents? And then every time, I have seen this for 20, 30 times, people will carry their silk melon and then in their hand and say no. I have not seen a single time a person say, even with a lot of things in their hands and say, yes, I want to spend 10 cents. And my parents, personally, they used the sewing machine, made a huge bag for themselves to carry things. So I do think when we have the 10 cents, it's very powerful. So I think it will be very effective. So I hope this ordinance will pass. Thank you.
Good evening, Sunita Mukherjee, 38 Renfield Drive in Princeton Junction. I do not want to repeat all the wonderful messages that have been resonating for the past more than a year, but I do want to say that cities and towns that used to get their money back for exporting their recyclables are now paying several times that amount for their recycling programs. This is because our recyclables have nowhere to go. Waste haulers continue to collect and sort our recycling, but they have no way to dispose of that waste. And as our recycling continues to pile up, so does the cost of its collection. And while we agonize over what is happening to the businesses, I would like to state that residents are agonizing about what happens to their recycling costs, which will eventually come to them. And in West Windsor, recycling costs apparently have gone up 40%. I do want to say that sustainability it can be ingrained in our culture, and I do appeal to the town council to be the leadership that they have promised to be when they ask us for their votes, and we do want to see that happen. This has nothing to do with elections. This has nothing to do with the political season. This has to do with the way we lead our lives. And I do want to also add, I am speaking on behalf of all the high school students who apparently it has gone over 800 signatures. Most of them could not be here because they are completing college apps. So they have sent me a message, and it's on behalf of Sanika Kulkarni and the high school students of both West Windsor High School North and South, and I'll just quickly read it out. Young people across the country are galvanized by the movement towards a greener future. Many of them call West Windsor their home. All the politicians appreciate the initiative of youngsters by saying a few kind words. They often fail to deliver on the hopes of those who put effort into something that shouldn't even be political in the first place. The power of the local government is oftentimes underestimated. However, by starting a grassroots movement for a single-use plastic ordinance, we have realized how necessary this step is for us, the next generation, and the shared future of mankind. I hope that you, the elected officials of West Windsor, will be the ones who actually listen to the people who have nothing but the best interests of our town. And that comes from all the high school students who go to this school district. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Hi, Shinyi Lin, 8 Harrison Lane. I've talked multiple times on the bag ordinance, so I don't want to repeat myself. I do want to just bring up a couple points that are new, which is, number one, I want to make sure that I emphasize that no one is saying that people who might have reservations against this bag ban means that we're trying to say you don't care about the environment. I think obviously that's a bridge too far and not an accurate reflection. However, I do think that there is a question of whether you are willing to be bold in your leadership and take the responsibility that you have in your hands to act in such a way that addresses a lot of the concerns that other people have already said. The other thing I wanted to say is that this vote today kind of reminds me of a vote I heard about that happened here a couple years ago when council voted to enact a smoking ban on township property. And I understand why people want to be wary about, or at least mindful of when we put bans in, especially in America. Ban is a very touchy word, which makes sense, you know. At the same time, I think this time, like last time, I think the vast majority, if not even higher, more than majority, of West Windsor residents are in strong favor of it. And this time, like then, it really does touch upon eventually a public health issue, and so that's you know. So that's what I see. And again, this is not a huge lift for our community to do this. And I know that oftentimes when people are against things, people will often, I think it's an adage in government that people will say they'll complain about the process. And I've been on both sides, so I sympathize with that. And I certainly don't mind people saying that they need to do more research as a scientist. I love research. I like doing more research. At the same time, I think it's important to then actually go and do it. And I'd like to point out that even if it is the case that maybe you didn't fully pay attention to this ordinance until it was first discussed officially here in September, we've had almost a month and a half to do some of this research, to at least start it, to show that you're ready to, convene any working groups that you thought was important, or at least to begin it. And so, at some point saying we need to do more research starts to sound less like a reason to do things mindfully and more like potentially a cause or an excuse for inaction. So thank you very much.
Hello. Jerome Keeler, 252 Varsity Avenue. Just like to say a few things. Number one, earlier the issue of collective punishment was brought up. I'm someone who would like to be punished more often in order to make a viable future for this planet. You could charge me $1 for every bag that I use that I shouldn't use, and I would be very happy about that. Because if someone doesn't do it, we're in big trouble. We're already in big trouble. Secondly, I'd like to say, I too have not been at a couple of the meetings, but I've heard a lot of this talk about, well, we haven't done enough research. We don't like the procedure. That's what I've heard has been coming out of these meetings. I have to say that if I were to hear that again, I would be extremely disappointed. If the research that has been presented tonight alone in this room is not enough to convince you of the importance of this ban, you're pulling the wool over our eyes, blowing smoke. There is no research that needs to be done about this issue. It has been done thousands of times in different countries, in different states, in different local areas, all across this country, all across the world. The research is complete. The question is, are you going to do it? Are you going to represent West Windsor? There were 2 people, by my count, who spoke against the plastic bag ban. Do you see them in the room? How many people spoke for this charge on the plastic bag? Everybody who's in the room right now. This is West Windsor. This is the composition of our town now, and this is what we want. I understand, to bring up an elephant in the room, or rather not in the room, that the mayor is not really in favor of this measure. Coincidentally, perhaps he is not here tonight to hear what we have to say, just like the people who spoke against the ban who aren't here anymore either, to hear our response. All I can say about that, and the possibility of this not passing, is that the people who've spoken tonight are the new West Windsor. You're going to hear from us about this, no matter what happens, no matter what the mayor says. You're going to hear from us during the election. We are more active than we used to be. I was not politically active in this town till about a few months ago when I heard about some development that was going on in my area. But I assure you that I'm not the only one who's going to be out there fighting for issues like this in this upcoming election and in the future. And I hope that you will keep the new West Windsor in mind when you make your decision about this issue. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make a statement? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah. Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Now, I'd like a motion to adopt and a second, and then we will discuss this. I think that the way we should discuss this, rather than back and forth, because I don't think we're going to convince each other, is everybody should speak for the record, on the record, and that will be our deliberation. So do I have a motion to adopt?
Second.
Okay. I'd like to start at this end, if you do not mind, Virginia. If you mind, we'll start with someone else.
I don't mind starting.
Oh, you want Linda to start?
Whatever.
I don't mind starting, because I've always thought through this process that the council should have sat down and gone through this line by line, section by section, which didn't quite occur. We did make some changes at the last meeting, but it was already introduced. So as a matter of process, I didn't kind of appreciate it from that standpoint. I don't have any quorums or anything, disagree with any of you about what you have said. I don't think we need to do more research. I don't think we did the outreach that we should have done to the businesses, because it was very, very little, and the businesses that I've spoken with weren't even aware that this is going on. But anyway, so right now, I just wanted to go sort of page by page with some questions or issues, and start there. So some things are typos, some things might be more substantive. On the first page, the whereas, the second whereas, there's a typo. It says bags are used annually in New Jersey. I believe it should be. I think that when you do the whereas and you say there's 500 single-use plastic disposable bags per year, and all these stats and things, that you should cite the reference in there, because the average person reading this doesn't know where this says come from. So I think just as a matter of when we write these clauses, we should add in the reference for the second, third, maybe even the fourth whereas clause. Do we know where this came from?
Can I address that, Allison?
Somewhere?
Well,
just as a legal point, these whereas clauses have no effect whatsoever. So we can add more language, but it doesn't matter.
I know
Well,
that.
the other issue is the numbers don't add up. The
let's-
500 single-use bags doesn't add up to 102 million nationwide, so one of those numbers isn't correct, so we're not starting off very well.
I'm just trying to do this in like a logical way and just go straight down the list, as opposed to
please.
flipping all over the place. So those are my comments on that. Under definitions, food service establishment, at some point in these multiple drafts before we got it, there was deleted language, and that language had said including food trucks and mobile carts. That was included in a September 8th draft. and for some reason it was taken out. But shouldn't we be including food trucks and mobile carts on this?
I would say yes.
I think that we looked at it and we wanted to keep it as simple as possible, and that's why that was removed.
But you can't single out, Mike, you can't single people out, right? I mean,
Yes, you can single people out.
Well, the problem was, I think the council didn't get the first draft until September 16th. Okay, that's when we got it.
well, and it was a copy, it was really
It was a
somebody else's ordinance, it
presentation.
wasn't the West Windsor ordinance.
Right, so,
It applied to a town that has a different form of government as well.
Right.
all right, so is that something that, see, if we had sat down in a work session meeting or under new business and discussed this, these are the kind of things we just go straight down the line and you discuss it. So I'm just saying, shouldn't food trucks and mobile carts be included?
That's up to council. If you
Yeah.
want to include them, you can. If you don't.
You want to make a motion, Linda?
Why don't you go ahead throughout all of your
You want
comments?
me to go back? Or not do it at all?
What?
Wait, were those your changes? Allison's just asking you to go
Yeah,
through
I'm
your
just saying-
changes.
All right, we'll go through the changes. All right, then on the second page, reusable bag, it says at least 10 mils thick. When I looked at some of the information, I guess YZ, I think you had given us, like a lot of the townships had 2.25 mils thick. So this is like 4 times that. That's I guess would appear to be a very thick bag. I mean, is that necessary, or?
That's the definition of reusable bag that actually will be able to be reused enough times so that it is not contaminating the environment. I mean, you can have reusable bags that are smaller or narrower, but they don't last enough times to make it worth it.
Yeah, they're also very thick. But I don't know, I was just looking at the information that we received on that. In the next section on the, I guess, I don't know what number this is, number 6, it containing prescription drugs. The Madison ordinance that was recently passed said contain pharmacy prescriptions or medicines.
If you
we
like,
can-
if you like that language better, we can change it to that language.
Right. And then number 6, I guess there are some exemptions for the community farmers market. That was added in at some point by someone. And then what about West Windsor farms? You know, we have farms like the Applegate Farm. I mean, you know, West Windsor farms would they be exempt too? I mean, this just mentions the farmers market.
Well, you
but-
make a good point, because the farmer's market has a lot of companies from outside of a lot of entities from outside of West Windsor. So we're literally giving an advantage to somebody outside of West Windsor at the expense of our own farms here in West Windsor, which I don't think is right.
You also have to remember that farms are regulated under a separate law with regard to the Right to Farm Act.
So you would not, you wouldn't
include farms in here. I think you're going to complicate the issue.
Yeah, it's unclear. You know, it's an issue.
So would you think it would
I'd have to
be-
consult with the SEDC about that.
Would you think it would be more reasonable to exempt farms in West Windsor selling their own product?
Yeah, that would clean things up, sure.
We can also address that separately, because it's a farm issue, and I think Mike feels that the farm issue should be dealt with carefully.
It's unclear. Remember, the Right to Farm Act gives farmers the right to have a vegetable stand and something like that. Does the town then have the right to regulate what's in the vegetable stand? If it's, under the regulations, if the item has to do with a farming activity, then it's regulated by the State Agriculture Board.
No, I agree with
If
you.
it's a non-farm activity, then it's not, and that's sort of a gray area. Is the use of a single-use plastic bag to carry vegetables from the farm stand, is that a farm-related activity, or is it something that could be related by the town? It's something I have to
wouldn't put
research
it in
further.
here, just to the extent that I don't.
Well, I think we should just remove farmers markets as having an exemption, because what's the difference from going to McCaffrey's and buying tomatoes or going to the farmer's market and buying tomatoes? In McCaffrey's, you're not allowed to take a bag when you leave, and at the
Actually-
farmer's market, you are. That's not okay.
Actually,
I take bags to McCaffrey's.
And I'm not talking about the bags in the produce section, I'm talking about a bag when you check out.
Okay.
If you go to the farmer's market and you buy tomatoes, they're going to put them in a plastic bag and hand them to you. If you go to McCaffrey's and only buy tomatoes, you're going to stick them in your pockets and walk out if you don't have a bag.
You mean if
Or
it's
you have
regulation,
to,
it's in
or you have to
effect?
buy a reusable bag. It's different. and it-
Actually,
They're talking about different
says
bags.
packaged bulk items such as fruit, vegetables, nuts, grains, candies, or small hardware items.
Those are part of the exemptions.
That's part of the exemption.
Yes,
So
but my-
your tomato doesn't work. Think of something else.
If you, okay, so I go and I get a lot of vegetables. So if I go to the farmer's market, I don't just get tomatoes, I might get many things.
You can
And they
get-
give them to me in plastic bags. But if I go to McCaffrey's and I get many things, I'm not getting those in plastic bags.
Yes,
Look,
you are,
buy,
because that's-
you can buy soap at the farmer's market and they're going to give it in a plastic bag.
If the regulation's in effect, you're saying?
Yes, under this ordinance. It's not fair to entities like McCaffrey's that have made a lot of donations to this township and stood by this township, and I just don't think that's right to make a specialty exemption for the farmer's market. It's not right.
I think you're right when it pertains to soap, but you're wrong when it pertains to vegetables because that's exempt.
Well, you
And
might carry
exempt-
out, you might walk out with several bags that you get in the produce section, right? But you're not going to have a bag with handles that you can easily carry out. Imagine if you got 6 different things, and you've got all those bags, and you've got them tied off at the top, and you're trying to carry all those bags separately. You don't have that issue with the farmer's market. It's the same issue, it's just that you're giving a benefit to the farmer's market and not to
Farmer's
McCaffrey's or...
market doesn't give out bags.
Yes, they do.
Doesn't give out plastic bags
Yes.
for everyone.
Yes, they do, and your ordinance allows it.
If they're not giving out the single-use bags, then they shouldn't be exempt.
They
shouldn't be exempt.
I have a question.
You're out of order, sir.
Order, you can't do
Out
it.
of order, you gotta sit
About
down.
our town's
Sir,
ability.
You're out of order.
Order, you have to sit down.
I'm
broken,
sorry.
call the repairman.
Public has been closed, thank you.
Yeah, well, she's making.
Well, I would like to,
Sit down, thank you.
I would like to make,
Quiet.
I would like to make a motion to remove the community farmers market as an exemption. I don't think it's fair to the other organizations in town that are selling similar things.
Well, I mean, I'll second that for discussion.
Thank you.
The bags at McCaffrey's are the green ones, they're smaller. The farmer's market, you're saying they don't give out any?
Yes, they do.
They do give out single-use bags.
They
No,
give out the
no,
bags
they're
with
Isn't the whole
the
idea-
handles, the plastic bags, like that lady brought in a big bag full of those. That's the kind of bag that I've gotten at the farmer's market when I've gone over there and forgotten my reusable bags. They 100% give those out.
Well, I've never seen them, but I don't know everything.
But the point is, this ordinance gives an exemption to them to give them out. So, you can't, well, they don't give them out, so we'll give them an exemption. That's not the way it works. You give them an exemption, they're allowed to give them out.
I'm going to call the question, so just vote on it.
On the
amendment.
Amendment, okay. Let's vote on the amendment.
Jeevers.
And again, just so we're clear, the amendment is what?
To remove bags provided at community farmers market as an exemption.
From A6.
I mean, if
A6.
you're going to do it in stores, you should do it there, but,
So we're just taking out community farmers market.
Yes.
yeah, it wasn't originally in a previous draft, but it's in this one.
Jeevers.
Yes?
Hamilton.
No.
Manzera.
Yes.
Zhang.
Abstain on that. Abstain.
Abstain. Miller.
Okay, Mike, remind me, if I vote yes, it passes. If I vote no, it's 2-2, and what happens?
Yeah, the question fails.
The question
Wait a minute, what did I vote?
Yes.
To remove it?
Yes.
To remove it. Oh, okay.
Right
I'm
now-
going to vote no. I think we can deal with this in the year we have to.
Well, again, I have to state my warning that it is unclear whether or not this is regulated by the state Right to Farm Act, and it may make this ordinance null and void.
So do you think that if we take this out,
There's no issue, Allison.
let's leave it in, because I think that the people who were developing this ordinance did their research.
I question that highly.
Well, the issue failed, so let's move on. What other changes do you have, Linda?
Next page, it says, "These prohibitions apply to single-use plastic carryout bags used for takeout and/or deliveries from retail establishments or stores within West Windsor Township." So are we saying that if someone is going to deliver food, that they can't deliver it in some sort of plastic bag? Or paper bag, or what?
So if I can just speak to that,
I'm a little
because
concerned.
I've
Yes.
said commonly, and I will say on TV, that I'm clearly the worst cook in this town, and possibly DoorDash's best customer. And DoorDash now comes to me with like a thermosy bag, and pulls the stuff out and hands it to me. So whether you do this or not, companies with a conscience are already implementing the plan, so.
In answer
Which
to your
is
question, it
fine, but-
would appear that if a service did bring something to you in a plastic bag, that would violate the ordinance.
But they're already trying not to do that.
Right, I'm just saying.
Well,
I mean,
some
they did.
are, but they're not regulated, and I would have liked to have, if we had had a meeting with the administration.
We're over that, Linda, we've already talked about
Well, I know,
that.
but we could sit down, the health department would have been there to try and say, what do you think about this? You know, I mean,
Well,
sometimes
that-
pizzas are delivered in these.
In a box.
Square.
I get
Well, they're in a
pizzas
box,
in a box.
but they're also in something else.
I've never gotten a
I've never
pizza in
gotten
a plastic
pizza except
bag.
in a box.
No, I was.
You haven't lived till you've
I'm
had
not
pizza
saying
in a
that. I'm
plastic
saying
bag.
when.
That's not what she's saying.
What I'm saying is when they're delivered by someone that's hired, that might not even be, a part of the.
Uber, not
the
DoorDash is one thing,
establishment.
Uber
Yes,
Eats
yes.
maybe
So
something different.
You got
who
these
knows?
all kind of people coming in and they're delivering food.
So you order food, what's it delivered in? If you can't get, say
I
you
don't know
order
what
Chinese food
I don't know what it's
and
delivered
they're
in.
delivering it in whatever, or you order from Al John's or whatever.
I don't know what they're delivering it, would deliver
I
it
think
in.
it depends upon the establishment they're getting the food from to bring to you.
And what they package it in.
Right. I mean, we do DoorDash as well. My wife is a fantastic cook, but she works a lot
watch
of
it,
nights. But they will sometimes hang it on your door handle in a plastic bag.
Okay. Anything else?
So, Linda, are you proposing removing that?
Well,
I mean, I think that's a little,
I'm just curious about food that's coming from like Chinese food or something, and then it's not.
Something that might leak.
It's not in a bag. What kind of bag is it
Which
supposed
is
to be
why we
coming
need this
in?
to be a state regulation and not a local
Well,
regulation.
yeah, I'm just concerned about, do we really think these people are delivering the food or cleaning some sort of bag that they're delivering it in?
well, that's the other thing, and as somebody who is, an engineer mentioned to me that, or I think an engineer, mentioned to me something about the whole like sterilization process, and when they deliver stuff in some kind of a container, that's a health issue. And then you had mentioned getting the health department involved, that they weren't invited to this conversation, so that is an issue about what they're transporting back and forth. Is there going to be bacteria growing in whatever it is, and is that going to be an issue? So I'm uncomfortable with that, and I would like to remove that section that talks about prohibiting plastic carryout bags for takeout and deliveries. I would like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Let's vote on that motion.
Chevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
No.
Manzera.
Yes.
Zhang.
No.
Miller.
No. Okay, any other suggestions?
Well, the next section is called allowing recyclable paper carry-out bags/fees. So before the introduction at the last meeting, we took out this 10 cents per bag, that fee. But this paragraph still mentions the store may make available to customers for a fee. See, that 10 cents, the following paragraph was flowing because we were mentioning about a fee, but now...
I'm actually going to
now
make a
out.
motion to add the fee back in, because I think from what I've heard today, there's a significant and intelligent deterrent effect that goes along with the fee, so I'll make that motion.
And again, my legal interpretation remains in effect that we cannot impose a tax, and therefore you cannot...
It's not a
fee.
tax.
It would, I think it could be clarified as a tax, because how does a town legally, and you're an attorney as well, how does a town legally force an establishment to charge a fee for something that it pays back to itself? I don't believe that a town
I don't
has
think
that
we are
ability.
getting the fee.
No, the fee-
The establishment is
Correct.
getting the fee to
Correct. The
offset
but how do you,
what
how
costs
do you
they have.
require an establishment to charge a fee that comes back to that establishment?
So change it to permissive language and put it back
Don't we
in.
have that?
Yeah, we have it.
It says
That's
all
amazing.
retail establishments or stores may make
Right.
available to customers for a fee. Do you
But
want to
may
change?
make, but what if they wanted to give it to people for free? But
Oh.
you're now requiring them to charge them a fee.
No, we're not. We're saying may make
May make
available.
available to our customers.
What's a fee of at
After,
least 10
okay,
cents?
I have now decided, I've now decided to provide reusable bags to my customers for a fee. It goes, comma, for a fee. Any judge interpreting this will say, if they decide to give the recyclable bag, they now have to charge a fee because of the comma.
So Mike,
That's the whole idea, because if we
That's-
didn't
that's what a
have
judge will
that,
do.
then
is
they
the
could
issue
just
with the
give
comma?
up- They could just give
Take
up.
out the damn comma. Right? If that's the issue, take out the comma.
Which one?
Which comment?
One before or the one after?
I don't know, take them all out.
But again,
Just ask it.
again,
I got to do it.
even if you took out the comma, it may make available for a fee. The may still does not apply to the fee even without the comma.
So then let's put in a sentence that says the fee is permissive.
So again, I just want to raise the issue that when this came up in a vote throughout all of Mercer County a couple of years ago, 55% of West Windsor voters voted against a bag fee. 61% in Mercer County voted against a bag fee. So, you might have, I don't know how many people came tonight, 10 people from West Windsor speaking in favor of it and 3 against, because we got something in writing, so 2 people here and 1 in writing. We have to look at the bigger numbers, and we've got 55% of West Windsor voters saying they're not in favor of bag fees.
Well,
So,
excuse me, but I've talked to an awful lot of people about this, and I've talked about the Mercer County attempt to do this 5 years ago, and something has changed in 5 years. There are people
Except for my legal
who were
opinion.
very skeptical of this 5 years ago.
well, I'm sure
are
you didn't
not
speak
now.
with 5,000 people. So, I mean, those numbers still have to stand unless we have
you can-
another vote on that.
Okay,
I mean, if you
can-
want to put a referendum on, then we could talk about that. But you
Okay,
can't just discount it because you talked to some people and they said they didn't change their minds.
Wait, was there a motion on the
Ridiculous.
table? I'm
Well, you
not
can
sure
say it,
where
but
we
it's just
are yet.
ridiculous.
I don't
No.
think so.
Procedurally, we're just going to run this through the night. How long are we staying? I mean, we can
Just
find all sorts of issues.
We're going to stay until, as long as it takes, because this
so
council never was allowed to have a work session, as was requested many times, so we're going to go through it and take as long as it needs.
Well,
Excellent.
Because that's our responsibility as elected officials,
Linda,
period.
let's let,
It's okay,
speaking
Allison.
of procedure, we had a decided lack of interest in having this before it was introduced. So that's what happened.
What?
But, yes,
What
we
did you say?
did.
What did you say? Allison, I don't understand what you said. What did you say?
There was not interest in going through this procedurally and inviting everybody into the...
Linda suggested it several times, and I backed her up, and it was never done because we were told too bad.
Allison, maybe the three of you didn't want to do that.
Well, we
Okay,
did...
But certainly.
It was
we
requested
should.
many
You
times.
and I have been
Well-
at a long time, and you know
no.
something like this, you should
Let's-
have that
well,
discussion.
And the administration
Let-
wasn't
let
brought in on it.
Administration was not interested. Anyway, please
Well, you should have put
continue,
it on the agenda. That's how
You
do
can't
that.
leave, Marlena.
please continue,
is killing me.
please
Amen to
continue
that.
with
Continue.
your
All right, well, we
comments.
haven't resolved that yet, so, what else here?
So is that an outstanding motion? I don't even know where we are right now with that.
I think there was a motion to take
It
out the
failed.
comma, but I think it still is, may make available to customers for a fee. So again, if the establishment decides to provide the bags, they are then forced by the town to charge a fee. That is the way I read it.
Yeah, well, that's,
Okay, next comment.
okay. This is another one, I got a bone to pick. It's temporary exempt establishments. You know, it says the
Where are you,
mayor-
Linda?
The next page.
Page 17.
148-30.
Dash 30.
Okay, it says the mayor or township council or their designee may approve a written request for a temporary exemption, blah, 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 okay? How can you put that in there, the mayor or township
It's vague,
council?
it's void for vagueness. The whole section's void for vagueness. It talks about maybe the mayor, maybe the town
Yeah,
council, or
it's
maybe a
just-
designee by either the mayor or the council.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
suppose we
I
took
can't
out,
believe that this
suppose we took out or township council and just said the mayor or their designee.
How does the,
It's an enforcement issue, so
Yeah,
it's an
yeah.
administration issue.
yeah, it's an admin.
So just leave
wouldn't
it
be
as an
designated.
administration issue. And who's the designee? I don't know.
It would have to be the administrator.
Like a code enforcement guy? Is that what we're talking about as a designee?
Not that far.
On behalf,
Guy doesn't exist.
on behalf of the mayor,
The
after
property
you,
maintenance code doesn't exist. That's another problem here.
Marlena?
on behalf of the mayor, after you have spoken, I will share with you his comments that he would like me to express to council this evening. And a response from someone in the audience was that the mayor chose not to be here this evening. That is not true. The mayor is away on business. It's
Okay,
not
all right.
You're out of order, sir.
You did.
This is not a necessary decision,
Yeah, these are
discussion.
like substantive. This thing says township
It's,
council.
yeah.
It's, hey,
I mean,
I'm sorry, I don't know why
How do I go before a
this was left
judge
in there,
in municipal
this form of
court?
government.
Say somebody is to get fined on this. How do you go before a judge in municipal court and you're able to sell that? You can't.
Do you recommend just taking that section out? Or do you just recommend taking out or township council?
I think it has to be totally redone if you're going to leave it in there.
I am not opposed at some
It's not
point
obstruction, and I don't
doing a lot of
appreciate the
this.
implication. I am trying to give best legal advice I can. If you don't want me to, then I should leave.
No, Mike,
No, you're staying.
Mike, I'm not sure the entire section is unclear, but I think you make a valid point. So if we take township council out, it's an enforcement issue that's a ministerial responsibility of the administration, and that's where it should stay.
But how do we define what an exemption is? It's not defined here.
And what are with or without conditions? What does that mean?
A written request for a temporary exemption, I think, is pretty clear what it means. Please exempt me from this for 6 months because I'm having a problem with my...
Right, but you have to put in definitions as to what that exemption is.
I think it's an exemption from the operation of the ordinance. How are you going to
Right,
define?
But how do you define who gets an exemption and who doesn't? The mayor could turn around tomorrow and give the whole township exemptions.
And how long does it last? Is it a month, 6 months,
And then
indefinitely,
do you get a second
forever?
exemption? Do you get a third exemption? It doesn't define it.
6 months.
You want to take it out?
Well,
Are you making a motion to take it out, Linda?
look, it needs to be reworked. This, taking out any part of this, I think, is a substantive,
I'll move to
Change-
take it out.
change there.
I'll
And I
move to
think
take the whole paragraph out.
and 6 months might not be enough. If any business has contracts or different things with bags or whatever, maybe it's a year, maybe 6 months isn't.
Yeah, and then
up to
we'll
a
have,
year,
we'll have
not
members of
6
the public
months.
coming here talking about how the mayor is showing favorites by exempting some people and not exempting others because there are no standards in place.
I move to remove that section 148-30, temporary exempt establishments.
Well, it's a substantive change, and when we get, when you
We've
finally
already
get to-
done several substantive changes.
Okay, well, then it needs to be reintroduced at some point.
It will.
So just so council's aware of that, which is okay.
We didn't pass any substantive changes. You'd like to make some substantive changes, but
You
none of
actually
them...
earlier on made some substantive changes.
Which ones?
You took out the community farmers market. That's a substantive change.
I don't think that passed.
They didn't pass.
That
It
did not
didn't
pass,
pass.
Mike.
Did not pass, I apologize.
That did not pass. We didn't.
So
What was
far
the other,
none.
wait, we should be clear on your record-keeping, Mike. What
Yeah,
else are you...
You're right. I did mark it in here as it did pass, and that's my apology.
Okay, well, I have an outstanding motion.
Any others, so...
None that have passed.
So I move to remove 148-30, temporary
Nobody
exemptions.
seconded it.
Well, I'll second it for purposes of discussion, but if it comes out, it's a substantive change to
Right.
take a whole
Right,
section out.
right.
You're going to have
Which
to make
means we're gonna have
substantive
to, like-
changes to this thing anyway, even if you don't take this out.
Well, I think we've discussed it, so I'm going to call the question and just call the
Well,
vote.
it's to take it out, the whole
Jeevers?
section, yes.
Hamilton,
No.
Manzara,
Yes.
No.
Zhang, Miller.
No.
Okay, so they don't want, that's, okay.
So how are you going to fix it?
May I
Council
just
is-
ask...
Then how are you going to fix it, guys? Because if you want
Excuse me,
it
could I just
in,
ask Mike a question? Would it
Totally
be a
unenforceable.
substantive change if we took out "or township council"?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to know.
Well, this.
But
well,
here's
it's
your
written,
next
it's not-
problem. At the next paragraph, it talks about the property maintenance official. We don't have one here in the township. That's why you're going to have to make substantive changes to this ordinance. You have these kinds of problems.
you guys, we could have gotten a 5-0 vote on this if you guys had done the process and we'd gone through this before. Just saying, I know it's beating a dead horse, but everybody up here wants to make things better in this township, and because this was pushed through because it's political nonsense, it's not going to go through. And,
Well, if it's
you know,
political
people are going to be
nonsense,
upset.
just skip to the vote.
It's the time, it's.
Because I don't want to, I take my oath up here seriously, maybe you don't, but I took my oath as a council person seriously, and I'm not going to vote for an ordinance that is going to maybe have a negative impact on the township, that we have no way to fund, that we have people that are supposed to be enforcing it that don't exist, and that it possibly causes some litigation.
The vote is going to be no, so let's just jump to the end of the show.
Yeah, but we need to talk.
Yeah, give me a break. Go ahead, Linda, you continue.
All right, the
So
compliance.
are we taking that out, or we're leaving it in? If we leave it in,
Well, it
how are you
stays-
going to fix it?
It stays in, but the township council, that has to come out, because this does not read right under our form of government. Sorry,
Nope.
folks.
Well, the motion
doesn't.
failed, so I'm not sure
Well,
where
the
you're
section,
going.
the whole section was.
So how are you going to fix
Apply
it?
to a
The Township
Faulkner Act
Council.
government. It doesn't.
Right. And number 2, the establishes, should be
Completely
establishes.
illegal.
It's a typo. 6 months should be, consider longer, up to a year. But that's a substantive change with that township council there.
So what are we going to do, Mike? You're saying it's completely illegal and unenforceable.
It's unenforceable.
How do we fix it?
You have to change the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, why don't we
so...
talk about that at the end, about what we could do or not do?
Well, we may as well, look, I have my own list of things, but we're doing your list of things right now, so.
Okay, the next section, compliance assistance. I don't know why it's called that, because in the September 8th draft, it was called enforcement, which I really think it deals more with enforcement, talks about fines. The compliance assistance.
I move to change that to enforcement.
Of saying enforcement.
I mean, we've got to clean it up, guys. We've got to fix it. I move to change it to enforcement.
I'll second.
I do not see this as substantive or necessary.
Well, compliance assistance is not fining somebody.
It's a title.
By
Who cares?
It's a title.
Yeah, I know, and it was changed. Why was enforcement
Mike,
changed?
do you think who cares when you're putting together an ordinance?
It's.
I mean, I
it's
can't believe an
substantial-
attorney just said that.
It's a substantial
Okay,
change.
whatever.
Well, I think it's the right change, but
Well, I made the motion, Linda seconded it. Can we vote, please?
Jeevers?
yes.
Hamilton?
No.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
There's really no difference in my opinion. But for the sake of compromise, I would say yes.
Miller. I don't want to do this. I'd say no, but it passes.
So what was that? Yes? 3
So
yes,
could-
2 no, or what?
So
3,
this-
it changes.
Compliance assistance is now changed back to enforcement.
Enforcement, right.
The way it was originally.
Thank you.
Now, under that section, we have not discussed this before, property maintenance official. We don't have that title. I
Don't have
don't
that title.
know, usually with new positions, part-time or full-time, we usually discuss that during budget season.
We have no money in the budget for the position.
Okay,
In this budget,
That's correct.
and there's a year lead up to this, and February comes in less than a year.
I
which is
couldn't
when you-
even hire a brush enforcement officer because I could find no one for the job.
Listen, it doesn't make the ordinance fail because you don't have the position staffed today. It doesn't mean that the entire thing is invalid. All it means is when
understand
time
that.
comes to enforcement, you and the mayor, and presumably you mostly, will be looking at what your resources are and whether you can enforce it or not. That doesn't make the ordinance fail today.
I understand that.
But what I hear her saying is, she doesn't think that she can enforce it. We don't have a person who does that right now, and she hasn't been able to hire a person of a similar ilk for years. I mean, I've heard that for a long, long time about the leaf and brush. I mean, I know YZ was asked by somebody in the Environmental Commission, or maybe it was here in a council meeting, how are you going to pay for that? And you said, that's not my job, it's not my problem. It is 100% your job as a council person. That's our most important job, is the budget and figuring out how to pay for things. So to just say, well, we'll figure that out a year from now is irresponsible. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers in this town, and we have to figure out, you know, are you going to add that on as an additional tax, or do you cut something? You can't just say you're going to hire a human being and pay for their, you know, all of their benefits and all that stuff, and it's just going to come out of thin air. It's irresponsible.
All right, I also think that the fines are kind of low. When you're talking about hiring someone part-time or even full-time, I mean, these fines, $50, $100, $200, it's not very much. I mean, you get a warning when they go back out. Now it's costing staff time. It doesn't even cover, I don't even think the cost of the staff costs to do this.
okay.
So,
Nothing does.
In my view, it is up
Yeah.
to the administration to enforce the ordinance. If the administration have their challenges, and that's the time to feed back to the council and find solutions. So to me, you know, first of all, this is an ordinance that will apply to all businesses in town. So, and the consumers are all the residents in town. So there will be channels feedback. Obviously, you know, that's not enforceable, but the information would get feedback to the township relatively quickly, in my opinion.
So
again.
I just want to add something, because we're obviously going completely out of order. And I do not want to be precluded from my opportunity for show and tell. But I have local businesses, like Orange Theory Fitness, right? Or Athleta, clearly my favorite store. Or this is Vijay Aluwalia, who's an Edward Jones broker. These are small businesses. I, from my business, give my clients reusable bags because it's nothing. It's not a significant cost to a business. I have a bag from when I moved here, which was, 6 years ago, that has Wegmans on it, that is still alive and well and that I use. We are blowing this thing way out of proportion, and as we may tend to do so when we want to defeat something. But I mean, the fact that this has become about the businesses are opposed to it, they're not. They're already doing it. The fact that
You're saying every business.
Let her
That's not
make her
true.
Fine, let her make her statement.
I haven't actually heard a single business come up here today or 2 weeks ago to tell me that this is a bad idea. I have, though, heard from people in the industry, who I'm going to trust, who I'm going to say have provided us with some interesting data, who have provided us with a step in the right direction. And no, it is not a perfect solution. And yes, you'll probably have to figure out a different way to pick up the dog poo. And I think that we can do this, right? When 800 students sign a petition, I think you need to listen. Okay, so we can continue, because I did not schedule an early meeting tomorrow knowing that we would be doing this crap. So let's go with it. Keep going, Linda.
Okay. Can I just say, the businesses aren't here because they weren't invited to come. There was no involvement with the administration, and
It's only a public meeting that's noticed.
Give me a break. Oh, come on, they weren't notified about this. Most of them don't know about it. When Linda went and talked to people, so did I. Come on.
Neither were these people
Go on, Linda.
invited. Oh, they came.
Yeah, okay, Allison.
That's a little different.
Your nose grew a little bit
The
there.
businesses that I talked to, even our 3 newest businesses over at Nassau Park, knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
And a lot of them had to deal with corporate, so I would have preferred if we had worked through an ordinance, send it out, give them 30 days to respond, say this is our latest work product before introduction, and then do it. But whatever, we didn't do the outreach that I think we should have done. All right, and just on the last page, why did we go with these 2 dates, food service establishments, the ordinance takes effect on November 2nd, and then the retail establishments, it takes effect May 1st. Why do we have these different dates?
I think that the reason we had these different dates was because of ease or not ease of making the transition to not using plastic bags. And that was the proposal that we got, and that was in the information that was sent out by YC.
So what if it's a food establishment that's also a retail establishment, like Barnes & Noble?
I think the definition should cover.
I guess food
The
establishment would go first. I don't know.
Is that any kind of prejudicial against food establishments, or one's more important than the other?
It's a matter of ease of transition.
But Mike, what about Barnes & Noble? Which do they fall under? Because they serve what's the definition? Serves made-to-order food or beverages for dine-in takeout, or is it a retail establishment because they sell books and candles and...
I think they're predominantly a retail establishment.
But under here, it says food service established under definitions. Any establishment which serves made-to-order food or beverages for dine-in, takeout, or delivery.
Yeah, but Mike, a court would look at what their predominant business is, and having a Starbucks in the corner is not going to control their business.
But you're placing in new definitions over, the problem is that you have elsewhere in the township code, you have other definitions. So we'd have to go back and look at what those definitions say with regard to what's a food establishment or not, food service establishment or not, as to how it lines up with this definition here. And again, court may look at that and what the predominant business is, but the court is also going to go back and look at what our other definitions say throughout the rest of the code.
And you brought up Starbucks, they're primarily food, but they also sell stuffed animals and reusable cups and other stuff.
Yeah,
So that it's not just Barnes & Noble, there are probably quite a few that we would come up with that would...
If I was to have written this ordinance, I would have, sat down, go through the whole... Marlena and I do this all the time. We go through the code, we see how it lines up, and we make sure it complies.
So for ease of having problems with this later, I would like to just make it one date, food service establishments and retail establishments, May 1st, 2020. Or actually, let's make it November 2nd, 2020.
Okay, anyone want to second that?
Yeah, I think we should be fair.
Okay, let's vote on that.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
No.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
No.
Miller?
Sorry, guys, yes. I think we can wait a year.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so out of all of that,
Okay, so,
just two sections that we just didn't resolve.
Yeah.
No, because
okay.
whatever.
What was the first one that you
Well,
the very first one?
The whereases?
What?
The enforcement.
No, the first
I
one,
think we voted on that.
we voted
Word
on that
enforcement,
before
whatever.
we started
Well,
voting.
there was the recyclable about the charging the fee, that whole issue.
No,
and-
that we dealt with. It was something.
We deal with that?
Anyway, okay.
Only two,
I think we dealt with that.
two things passed.
Well, you brought up food trucks and mobile carts. Did you want to move to add those back in?
Yeah, I can move. Well, yeah, we should.
Second.
Vote on it.
Food trucks.
It's under the
Jeevers.
definition of retail establishments or retail store.
Oh, wait a minute.
Is that in food service?
Or is that under food service?
Yeah, it was on the first page.
Right.
Definitions,
Move
food
it up to
service.
Food service.
Because it was originally in there, in the prior draft.
Okay,
So includes
let's
the trucks
vote
and
on
mobile
it.
cars.
Wait a minute, can I be clear on what the change is, please?
Well, the new language would say, including food trucks.
We're under food service establishment
Yes, it's
definition.
for dine-in, takeout, or delivery, comma,
Food service trucks.
including food trucks and mobile carts.
Second. Oh, we already voted on, did we vote on it?
No.
No,
No,
we
that's
did
the
not vote
wording
on
of
this.
it.
Hold on. So Linda's
That was
first,
originally in
Virginia's
September 8th
second.
draft.
Give me 1 second. Jeevers,
Yes,
Hamilton,
No.
Manzara,
Yes.
Zhang,
No.
Miller,
No. Okay, thank you, Linda. Aisha, do you want to say any more about this? No.
No, I'm sick of talking about it.
Okay. Virginia, do you want to say more, or can we just, as we're not going to change any minds?
Yeah, I had a list of things. I
Okay,
need to
let's
go through.
hear your list.
Okay, so first of all, with the title, we talk about single-use plastic bags. I've heard this repeatedly from people, they're not single-use bags if people reuse them. So I think that, well, I'll wait until Mike's ready. So Mike, one of my first issues is that single-use plastic bags aren't really single-use plastic bags because people reuse them for other things.
Okay, do you want to change that? Make a motion, and let's vote and move on to your next issue.
Oh, the problem is, what do you call it? I haven't been able to come up with anything. Does anybody have any ideas?
I think that most of them are used for
But wait a
single
second.
use.
It's
and
her
I-
motion. Let her come up with an alternative.
I think that DJ Varner made it really clear that these bags end up everywhere because they're used singly, or they're used only once.
Well-
And that's what we're trying to,
Okay, well, that's not how I use them. I use them for dog poo and for cat litter, and I wrap my shoes in them when I travel. And I know a lot of people do that. I also have a lot of reusable bags that I use, but every once in a while I'll forget or whatever, and that's what I use my plastic bags for. So I'm just looking at this NPR study, or, I'm sorry, article, where they talk about plastic bag bans and some unintended consequences, and they found that people used, fewer trash bags that they were getting from the stores, but they were buying them in place of that, and they saw a 120% increase in sales of plastic bags after the bans went into effect. This is from NPR. So my question is, are we helping ourselves by enacting this? So this gets to the question of, is this putting us in a better position or a worse position? So if people are going to go out and buy plastic bags, first of all, the plastic bags that you buy are thicker, and so they use more plastic, so you have more plastic that's going in the garbage. And second of all, does that place an undue burden on people on fixed incomes or lower income families or seniors? Because, those bags could be $100 a year. Now, to me, that's not a big deal, but it might be to somebody else. So that's an issue.
There's an exempt customers, 14829. All retail establishments must provide at point of sale, free of charge, compliant bags of the retail establishment's or store operator's choice to any customer who participates in or is the beneficiary of any United States government federal welfare programs or any local or Mercer County welfare assistant program or any New Jersey state welfare program, including but not limited to New Jersey supplemental nutritional.
I get
and so
that,
on.
but not everybody who's on a lower or fixed income is on SNAP or on welfare. So
And
it's
do you want-
an
do you
undue
want-
burden.
Do you want the person to have to, in order to get
Identify
that,
themselves.
identify themselves while in a line at a grocery store?
Well, they do that when they use their coupons anyway. I honestly, I don't have a problem with this.
When they say compliant bag, what is it that they would get?
Something that's allowed, that
What's-
according to the definitions in here.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about a retail, this is on page 2, paragraph 4. A retail establishment or store may rely upon a manufacturer's, vendor's, or distributor's representation regarding bag characteristics. Again, I don't know exactly what that means. Does it, is there an industry standard that we should be citing this to? Is there, as to what exactly is? Does the food industry have a standard? I don't know what that means.
All right, is there a specific change that you want to make?
Well, I would remove the word single use from the title and call it plastic bag reduction.
Okay, let's vote on that.
Need a
You're
second
making a
on the
motion,
motion.
Linda, are you seconding it?
Yeah,
Remove single use.
She's just talking about the title.
And the whereas clauses, and it's repeated throughout. I mean, I circled it a whole bunch of times. It's repeated throughout.
Let's just vote
I
on
mean, we could call it retail plastic bag reduction or something like that, if you'd rather call it that. I mean, I know the three of you will probably vote against it, so I'm just talking to myself here, so. I'd like to eliminate single use.
Jeevers?
Yeah, I'll just pass on this. Yeah, I'm just not ready for that yet. Take that out. Single-use plastic bag, taking that out.
Just taking out.
Just taking out single use.
Because people do use them once or twice.
But it's common parlance. It is commonly understood that when you hold up a brown Wegmans bag, that's a single-use plastic bag. I too use it for cat litter and to put my shoes in when I travel, but that doesn't change the fact that it is defined as a single-use
Right, but
plastic bag.
in the food industry, is it defined as a single-use bag? I don't know, I'm just asking the question.
Yes.
Okay,
It is? Okay.
okay, shall we vote on this?
I would just rather have, if the food industry has a definition or a citation, I would like to have that in there so that if it had to be enforced.
Hey, wait, we're citing the title now?
Just
No, not the title, just when it throughout.
It's used throughout.
Defines what
Yeah.
a single-use bag is.
Just,
Yeah.
just use Google it, you'll find tons of that.
Okay, shall we vote on this?
Wait,
Did
I
we
don't
have
think
a
it was
second?
seconded, so.
We have a second?
No second. Okay, next.
All right, so again, I mentioned in the second whereas clause, the math is wrong, so this is incorrect. It's either 500 single-use disposable bags per year, or it's 102 billion. They can't be used nationwide. They can't be both correct. So I don't know where you guys got this. It wasn't sourced, but we should at least be correct in this. So who has the correct information?
The nice lady in the front had a big poster board. Hold up your poster
But
board.
if you do them,
That's 500 plastic or paper bags per year based on EPA estimates,
Can you,
and that's from Garbology. And then I think you said that they were using the national number, but we have the New Jersey 2012 census. You could sub that in.
okay, well,
Can you read out the
I don't know
2012
about
language?
Garbology as a source.
Census is 8.8 million, so it's 8.8 billion times 500 is 4.4 billion bags in New Jersey.
I like that number.
Okay, well then I move to remove the 102 billion used nationwide because that math does not add up.
okay, I'll second it, and if you can accept the change to 4.4 billion are used in New Jersey.
That's fine
If
with
you'll
me.
accept
And
that.
annually, that little typo there.
Annually,
make it
and fix
annually.
that typo, yes. That's fine.
Okay, so let's vote on this.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes, and thank you for the statistic.
Manzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Second, or the third whereas clause, whereas 12 million barrels of oil are used annually to make plastic bags that Americans use. That is 100% incorrect. You don't make plastic bags out of oil. You make plastic bags out of natural gas. It's ethylene. And that ethylene would go into the air if they didn't freeze it and turn it into plastic bags. So basically what happens is the ethylene would off-gas and it would increase greenhouse emissions. So that's completely incorrect. So I would like to, I don't know what I want to do with that, but that's, I mean, I guess I would like to change it to make it correct. Whereas natural gas is used, I don't even know what to say about that.
But it's a whereas clause, it has no legal effect. You want to take it out?
Because it's incorrect.
Would you want to take it out? What's your motion?
Yeah, I want to move to take out the barrels of oil
Okay.
whereas clause.
Linda, do you want to second that?
Wait, Linda needs to find where she's looking at first, so somebody help her get there.
Which number, the whereas clause?
The third
Third
whereas.
one, all right. And so what do you want to change it to again?
Well, that's what I was trying to come up with some language for that. So whereas natural gas emissions are used to make plastic bags, and that those emissions would contribute to greenhouse emissions if not used for plastic bags.
What?
If the ethylene burns off, it contributes to
That's her.
greenhouse emissions.
Motion, make that motion.
That's her motion. Does anyone want to second it?
I just did a Google.
Those are just the facts. Google it, you can look it up.
Yeah.
And what
Maybe
does
it's
it
easier
say?
just to take out the whereas.
100 billion plastic bags used annually in U.S.
If you want to take out the whereas clause and not replace it with anything, take out the whereas clause. Okay? Does that make it simpler? Just take the whole thing out about oil. But just know, so, I mean, YZ, you worked on this, and you didn't realize that ethylene, that it's natural gas that you make plastic bags out of?
Wait, what's
We were talking about the environmental impact of this.
National Regional Information Center. All right.
Wait, I'm not sure what-
100 billion plastic bags used annually in U.S. 12 million barrels of oil are used to make the 102 billion plastic bags that are used in the United States, and about 2,400,000 pounds of plastic bottles. Well, that's jar bottles.
Okay, so this,
but it
where
is.
he has it, this is
You
from...
can go search, yeah,
This is
yourself.
from what is it, UNNC?
United Nations Regional Information Center.
Oh, and is that,
So
that's the
that's where
language
they
in
got-
there?
Here you go, here's from sciencing.com. There's a million of them, but this is just the first one that pops up. Ethylene is chemically changed into polyethylene, the building block of plastic bags. So ethylene off-gases into the air if we don't turn it into plastic bags. So my question is, which is worse for the environment? The off-gassing of the ethylene into the air or the making into plastic bags? It's sort of like, it's not a simple answer as to whether or not paper is better than plastic.
Wait,
We always thought
could you
paper was better
restate your
because it could...
motion? You've gone over this point a lot, but can you restate your motion? What's your motion?
Well, I wanted to replace it with the correct information about ethylene.
So what's your motion?
I would like to replace the 12 million barrels of oil with, whereas ethylene is used to produce plastic bags, which, if the ethylene were permitted to off-gas, would contribute to greenhouse emissions.
Do you have a
Okay,
second?
Second it.
okay, vote.
Chevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
No.
Manzara?
Yes?
Zhang?
No.
Miller?
No.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to remove the whole whereas clause, 12 million barrels of oil. It's wrong.
He just gave us a citation. You don't believe the UN?
There is a citation.
No, I've read it in all kinds of science websites.
But the UN's
That it's wrong. It's a political
Well,
group.
we disagree, so let's move on.
No, she made a motion, though.
She made a motion?
I made a motion to remove the whereas clause about 12 million
Okay, go
barrels of
ahead.
oil used annually.
Want to second it?
It's not correct.
Wait, someone's got to second it.
I just had originally wanted a citation on that, where it came from. and
He
now-
gave you
now
a
we're saying
citation.
Citation.
That it's
From the
Correct.
UN.
I just,
Okay.
Wait, is that
Next
a
one?
second or not?
No.
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 Which you
All right.
should.
Okay, so the next one, they talk about
Whereas it should be much more general.
microplastic pollution in oceans can accumulate. So this gets to, does this ordinance do anything to, your whereas clauses set up the problem, and then the ordinance is supposed to solve the problem. Doing a plastic bag ban isn't going to affect the microplastic pollution in oceans. First of all, we're nowhere near the ocean. Second of all, the microplastic problem is because of the clothing that we wear, and every time we wash clothing, those microparticles of plastic shed off of the clothing, because like polyester or whatever.
What's your motion?
Yeah, I'd like to remove that whereas clause as well.
Does anyone want to second that?
It doesn't serve this ordinance.
No second. Okay, what's your next? You want to take it out?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's
I
move
just
on.
don't want, well.
I don't want to be here for
Do
another
other things.
3 hours, so let's move on.
Allison, it'll be
Okay.
like the old days, right?
All right, so now for there be it
Can we
resolved.
talk about guns, too?
Reduce, okay, so the
Animal
township.
cruelty as well.
That's right.
The township desires to reduce the number of disposable carry-out bags that are being used, discarded, and littered. This isn't going to do anything with regard to discarded and littered. People can just buy their own plastic bags, and who knows what they're going to do with those, so I don't think that gets to that.
What's your motion?
And then also, you talk about reducing greenhouse gas emissions at the bottom, and again, this will actually, the switch from using those plastic bags actually contributes to greenhouse gases.
Okay,
So do you have a
so you want
motion?
to take this
So I
out?
want to remove discarded and littered, and I want to remove reduced greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, Linda, do you want to second that?
Discarded litter. I don't know, I have to think about this, we're just, I'm a little
Okay,
on the fly
next.
here.
Okay, will you think about it and get back to me? Okay, so did we say we're leaving in the 10-cent plastic bag thing, or we're not leaving in the 10-cent plastic bag thing for the paper
We were
bag?
leaving it in, and I think we voted on it, and it passed.
Did we?
I don't think we ever voted on it.
Voted.
We never voted on that.
Sidetracked.
I thought we voted on it. Allison? do you
Because
have
paper bags are, I think the agreed people say paper bags are worse for the environment in terms of producing them. So that's what I was.
I think the idea is to deter use of paper as well, and to encourage use of these guys.
Yeah, I get what the idea is, but I don't think that that's what this ordinance does. Okay, so we added the delivery thing. We talked about people using these for different things. Okay.
Everything failed, right?
Oh, wait, so Allison Gay confirmed that we never got to a vote on the 10-cent fee.
Right, we didn't.
Okay, so Virginia, you're making a motion. Linda, do you want to
I
second?
didn't make a motion.
No.
I didn't make a motion.
I'll make the motion to add in the original language of the 10-cent fee, and then someone can second it.
I'll second.
Okay, let's
Okay,
vote on that.
Well, I'm just saying, it's a substantive change,
We've
okay?
already
It's from
made
the
substantive-
original-
We're way over that point now.
We're way over.
No, what are the other substantive changes?
We took out the word compliance assistant and put in enforcement.
That's in a title, that's not substantive.
I would argue otherwise.
Well, the temporary exempt.
Mike,
What are
it's-
our other changes besides that one?
No.
Well,
We took out
November,
council.
The
said
date, the
May.
date that it's enacted, that's a substantive change.
I believe that the township council,
We
That-
took,
we
we
took out that
removed the
language.
township council.
yeah, I believe
Did we
that that's a
vote on that?
substantive change.
Did we ever
I don't
vote
think we
on
voted
taking
on
out?
that.
I don't think we voted
We
on
voted on
taking
that.
out the township council.
Actually, we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't vote on
We
that.
voted and
Hold
it
on.
failed.
We've been
Yes.
voting on so
We
much.
voted on taking, I think, the whole section out.
Get back.
I really don't think we have substantive changes, and I don't think I mean, we always say,
If you took out township council, I think
I don't
that's a-
think
We
that
never
vote
voted on
passed. It didn't pass.
it didn't pass?
That's what I'm.
We
hold
never
on, I gotta
voted
correct.
on-
No, I have the vote here, it stays.
We changed the date of when it's enacted.
Hold on.
I don't think
gotta
that's
be
substantive, because
substantive.
that's giving more notice.
Yeah, that's not a,
And I'm going to say that the title, the change of a word in the title is not substantive.
I don't know about that.
We
That-
did
that's-
compliance.
No, titles don't have legal effect, whether in contract
Correct.
law or in
Correct.
ordinances.
But it went from compliance assistant to enforcement, those are,
No, it's negligible.
And we have an attorney for a reason. We have to take his advice. Give me a break.
I'll put it this way, I think it could be an issue, you may be right, or I may,
But Mike, you have to have advice on whether or not it has to be reintroduced. Who else is there going to go by? Just our own? Like,
Mike,
we just make our own decisions? Give me a
you
break.
have made clear that you think the whole thing is invalid,
I
right?
do.
The whole thing does not fail because we changed 2 words of a title.
I'm not saying it fails, I'm just saying there may be a need to reintroduce.
Well,
Okay, well, let's continue. You said you were making a motion on the 10-cent paper bag thing.
And Wyzeve
Yeah, I second.
seconded, so we just need to vote.
Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Manzara.
No.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
yes,
So we added in the 10-cent,
The original language.
all right, that does make it a substantive.
Well, it wasn't original. We introduced it without it.
okay, let's just go on with this, please.
Okay.
Also, in definitions, you added in food carts and mobile carts.
Right, and that's
Definitions, so.
substantial.
That's right. Okay, so, sorry, just give me 1 sec so I can make sure I don't miss anything. I'm still uncomfortable with 148-30. We never really finished that. Did we vote on that, or do we not finish that
You did,
discussion
it
about?
stayed. Yep, they wanted.
So you're saying that that's
Well, that's-
void for vagueness, so.
That's my opinion.
So Mike, what happens if somebody comes and says they want an exemption, and what happens then? You said it's void for vagueness. Does that make the ordinance void for vagueness?
If it was to be
vagueness,
challenged
or
in court, the ordinance, the ordinance would be thrown out for void for vagueness. But if
Okay.
if it was to be on the books and it was not challenged, and I'll go back to my Trenton pickle argument about laws that haven't been challenged.
Not on Sundays.
Not on
right.
Sundays, you can't eat a pickle in Trenton on Sundays, but that law is still in place. But anyway, if it was challenged, then that would void the ordinance for vagueness. If it was left on the books, the administration, God bless Marlena, would have to try to figure out how an exemption could be granted.
Okay. So,
But we
section
voted,
needs to
we,
be redone?
okay, so we can skip it. I just wasn't clear as to where we landed on that. I think we should follow the lawyer's advice, but that was voted down. Okay, so I just wanted to mention a couple of things. John Church, as you know, usually comes in and makes comments. He was out of town. Everybody got this up here, so I just wanted to make note of a couple of things because I had them on my list as well. He made note of it's not really a single-use plastic bag. He also said the establishment of the $50 fee for the exemption request appears to be unfair, discriminatory, and in restraint of trade. I don't know if Mike wanted to comment on that.
I already did. Yeah, as I said to you, when you look at an ordinance as a municipal attorney, you look at 3 things. Is it constitutional? I made my arguments last time about the Commerce Clause. Council President astutely made an argument, well, what if it actually makes it better for the merchants? It still makes it invalid because you're now favoring one group of merchants over another. But again, that's a larger argument for a larger court, I guess. Is it preempted? And that's the second thing you look at. And again, I was saying under state waste regulations, in fact, NJAC 7:26-6.2, which I quoted at the last hearing, states that it is up to the DEP to promulgate regulations with regard to solid waste. We are now amending our code as to solid waste, clearly a preemption. Third, is it arbitrary and capricious? We've been talking about a number of things. The fees, clearly 30 is arbitrary and capricious because it's also void for vagueness, but it's, it talks about the mayor or council and doesn't define exactly how an exemption can be granted. Again, it has always been my opinion as an attorney, and I went to law school because I couldn't do science, unlike others, but I went to, the thing I've learned, whether I'm representing a planning board, a zoning board, or a township council, is you have to go by the science. And we've heard a lot of science brought forward here by some very smart people from the audience, and that is wonderful, but a town needs to have its own professionals look at something, especially an ordinance with such a significant ordinance like this, as to what exactly the impact is on the town itself. And what you normally would do as a town is you would have the engineer provide a report as to what plastic bags do for the town.
Okay.
We haven't done that here. That's part of the arbitrary and capricious part as well. The mayor had sent along to me a number of questions he had. He wanted me to make sure that I pointed out again that, as I stated at the last hearing, we represented the borough of Princeton years ago with regard to the cigarette litigation. No one hates cigarettes more than I do, and I think everyone probably feels the same as I. We tried to regulate them in the borough of Princeton. My firm, my father, stated you can't do it, it's preempted. They passed it anyway, and I think that's one of the reasons Princeton has not passed this ordinance, because they have very good counsel there now. And they, it went into litigation. The litigation costs, I was trying to look back at what it would be as today's dollars, it would be at least $50,000 or more. We could be looking at various, actions in the court that could be even more costly with that. There were some emails here that the League of Municipalities had said that towns have the ability to pass these types of ordinances. That is untrue. I spoke to Mike Sierra, who was supposedly contacted by people here in the audience, and he stated to me, no, we take no position with regard to these matters. He never made such a statement. I also contacted the Office of Legislative Services, and they actually have a memo from my previous associate when he was at Office of Legal Services, Dan Davidow, saying that local municipalities could not regulate plastic bags. So again, their position is, according to their attorney, is that the local towns can't do it. The mayor was also concerned. And again, both Marlena and I spoke to him. He's been driving up from down south and he's stuck in traffic. But he wanted to know, are people allowed to bring their own plastic bags to stores? It's kind of unclear whether they're allowed to or not. I mean, anyone's reading. But no. If you had a single-use plastic bag, are you allowed to bring that to the store to put stuff in?
Yes.
But it's
Actually, I think that's perfectly clear.
There's no language in the ordinance that kind of clears that up. That was.
I think the gist of the whole ordinance is precluding stores from issuing them. Mike?
But if life was a gist.
I appreciate that you're handing us somebody else's words, but that's.
That also complicates enforcement, because you see somebody walking out of a store with a plastic bag. How did they get it? Did they bring it in themselves? Do you have to check the cameras? I mean, it gets to be a little ridiculous.
Again, the mayor is concerned about people having to declare whether or not they are welfare recipients while in line. And again, he was going over this with Marlena and I. He is also worried about the exemption portion of the ordinance. How is he going to figure out what's an exemption, what is not? We've talked about that. And finally, again, he points out, as I stated before, there is no property maintenance official here in the township, so we need to find out who exactly is going to enforce this ordinance.
Okay. All right, so I had a couple of additional things that were on my list. So we talked about how much this would cost. We have no numbers on that. Where are we going to take this out of the budget? We have no information on that. Who will do it? And what will enforcement look like? Is somebody going to be going around to the stores? Which stores do they go to? Do they only go to the big stores? That kind of thing. Then the other thing that we talked about, is this going to be, actually, just because somebody came, I think a student came last time and asked, is this going to be a hardship for small businesses because they have to provide reusable bags to certain groups of people? And so, are you putting an undue burden on them? So that's one issue. But the biggest issue that I have is that we've already had a law firm contact the township asking to be kept up to date on this ordinance. This law firm is a law firm that has sued us zealously in the past, and they continue to sue us. It's a law firm that represents Market Fair Mall, which would, if this is enacted, be at a disadvantage versus Quaker Bridge Mall, which is right down the road. So there you have a violation of Commerce Clause.
We were contacted. I don't think it's privilege. I think we were contacted.
It's putting Township on a notice of claim. I don't think we should be talking about
There was no claim.
They requested information.
Oh, wait, there's no claim.
They requested information. They wanted to be kept up to speed on it. That's exactly what I
And they were concerned
said.
about placing the mall at a disadvantage.
So,
They should talk to Paramus.
So last time, YZ said, look, it affects everybody equally.
Regulation.
But it doesn't affect everybody equally, because some towns are right over the, some businesses are right over the border, and somebody who lives there might go to one or both of those places. So this would put, for example, Market Fair Mall at a disadvantage to Quaker Bridge Mall. So on top of that, we have, in one of the September meetings, Mike saying, I believe that this is illegal, and then we have the council president saying, if it's not legal, do it anyway, basically handing them ammunition in court versus us. That puts us in a difficult situation with, a litigation risk. So, Mike already said this could be a $50,000 litigation risk. Who's going to indemnify that up here? I don't want the taxpayers paying for that because this was handled improperly or because we're not following the advice of our legal counsel. Mr. Church made the point he's never seen a council not follow the advice of the lawyer when you're introducing an ordinance.
Because Mr. Church hasn't been on this council as long as I have.
I'm telling you.
My father could tell you something else.
Okay, so anyway, who are we going to listen to if we don't listen to you?
The elders didn't listen to me either, so.
So
Anyway, I think that's an issue, and so I would like to, move to.
I would like to have the other people who haven't had a chance to speak.
Okay.
The scientists.
You've had a chance.
Way
Would
too
you
much.
like to speak? Aisha, would you like to say more?
I don't know what else there is to say. This horse is dead and gone. We just need to vote.
YZ?
Yeah, I'll make it short too. First of all, I want to thank Teresa Worman in particular because some people say it's a single person's effort and desire. Everything starts from one person. Every movement, every change in society starts from a person. So I appreciate your passion and your expertise in this. And to be honest, this is all drafted up by Teresa. I was just trying to change some of the things to make some compromises, in fact, in terms of the timing and everything else. So I think the way I look at it is that when you want to have one thing done, you can get it done. If you don't want to get it done, you can find thousands of excuses to stop it. And I think this is the situation we're in. There's a personal judgment, right? So take as your grain of salt. So I think we've talked enough, we have done enough. If in future the council or the lawyer, our legal counsel, the administration can make a suggestion to make some additional changes,
I would be glad to sit and read.
It would be welcome I think as long as I'm on the council before my term ends, we can make another amendment or something. I don't see a problem. But as far as I'm concerned, this ordinance is based on hundreds and hundreds of ordinances across the country, 91 from New Jersey. This is not something we made up, first of all, right? Again, I'm not a legal expert, so I don't
Well,
like
again,
to...
I could quote you 50 laws that are on the books that...
That's fine, but again, to your point...
Actually, I have a question for Mike.
Wait a second.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to say that, this is a solid ordinance as it is. Can it be improved and changed? Of course, it can. Like every other ordinance, I'm sure we can pick and choose and find something we can improve on, right? So that's the matter of fact. So at this point in time, I want to, again, thank Teresa's great effort to begin with, and I want to move forward with this.
Well, I had a question.
Has a question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
And it's just a point of clarification, just so all of us are on the same page. What are the changes that were actually approved? The 10-cent fee?
Compliance assistant enforcement, the change to enforcement, the 10-cent fee, the food cart addition.
Well, there were some whereas changes.
The farmer's market removal.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, did that?
That did not pass.
Did not pass, you're right, I apologize, still have it here as passed.
And the date.
The date, the date is not an issue. We never touched property maintenance official. I don't know.
We talked about it, and it didn't pass.
We did.
We don't have that person,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry,
it's-
in the date, making both food service establishments and retail establishments the same.
I think Allison voted for 2020?
Yes.
November
Yes,
Yeah.
I did
2020.
that.
So everything is November 2nd.
Everything's, yeah. And again, it's my opinion that these are substantive changes.
And Mike had a question for you. So if we were to pass this ordinance and somebody were to challenge it and we were to lose in court, would that cause a lot of unraveling in other towns in New Jersey to happen, potentially? I mean, because then it's precedent, right?
If it occurred here, it would, the only other ordinance that is on the books here in Mercer County, and it would be a matter that would be before Judge Jacobson in Superior Court here in Mercer County, is the borough of Hopewell, which is a small town, it's a donut hole inside Hopewell Township. It would invalidate that ordinance.
Okay.
It would have no other impact yet. However,
But other people could challenge it based on that.
challenge
then.
using Judge Jacobson's opinion as they've done in the affordable housing litigation.
Okay, because some townships may have done their ordinances the right way, where they go through and they don't have all of these issues and problems with things that we left in because people voted down the changes. So it's not exactly the greatest legislation, even without taking into consideration the Commerce Clause and all those other things that you mentioned.
Okay,
So we have to
what
put
we
this up for
have now-
reintroduction.
What we have now is we have a vote. I
We
mean,
already
we've been
have-
doing this for so long that
You're just getting warmed up.
In a way, yes.
That I,
Yeah, actually, yes, you are
Actually,
correct.
in
There's
the-
other things that could go in this, too. But,
It needs a lot of work.
well, there's
I think
there's
that
plastic
if we
straws and
have to
stuff
vote
in this.
on whether to continue it with the substantial changes that we have made, I think that is the vote that we would take. I just want to say a few things. I don't want to reiterate what everybody else has said, but I'm listening to our students, I'm listening to the next generation who's saying, move on this. I'm listening to people who say every little bit counts, both when it turns on reducing pollution and when it turns on getting the state to act. So I will say no more. I would like to have a motion to, what would it be, Mike, to continue to make the...
Are we reintroducing?
I would like to make a motion to postpone this until it can be rewritten to be in a better
I was
shape.
making a motion to...
You can't make a motion as the
Well,
President.
may I make, may I ask Aisha to
Sorry.
make, or...
I don't mean
Yeah,
to cut
that's
you off.
true,
I
can't.
apologize.
But
I think you, or you just allow it to continue and be reintroduced.
Well, we would like to
We have to
reintroduce it
reintroduce.
now.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reintroduce it today with the changes that you just identified.
The changes that were voted on.
Yes.
Only the approved ones.
Right.
But I want to make sure you guys have a clear list of who approved what, because there seems to be a lot of
The
issues.
township clerk, yeah, I
I think I got it.
think she got it, but I will
If I
go,
don't, I'll be reaching out to
I will
everybody.
go over it with her tomorrow.
But
We have it.
in the whereases, we're changing it to 8.8 million and 4.4 billion in New Jersey and taking out the nationwide
And again,
information. We're
just-
adding back in 14828 back in, which now I will have to renumber each section. So remember, when you get, the sections will change after
And that's the
tonight
10
again.
cent.
So that's putting back in all retail establishments for the 10-cent fee that we took out, that's in italics in this section I left you all. So that will change everything from there. 28 will now become 29, 29 will be 30, 30 for temporary extent will be 31, enforcement will be 32, 34 will be repeal, and 35 will be the separability.
Okay.
And the change, and the last change that I have is we are changing enforcement in 14831 from compliance, and the last change was where every date will be November 2nd.
Okay, I would like to ask
Of
everybody
2020.
if somebody else will make a motion in the
I think I have
severability.
them all, do I not?
The first paragraph is essentially the same as Section 3. Could we please get rid of one of them?
Didn't we remove that already?
There was a whole nother section that
something
was another
that a lot of ordinances
Again,
have.
I'll make Allison's
I wish
motion.
I had been allowed to work on this.
What are we removing? What are you recommending?
Under 14834, severability, Section 3 is basically redundant
Duplicated.
from the first paragraph.
Oh.
I'll make that motion.
Well, I can second it. So can we vote on that?
Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. So with that, Aisha, you said...
I will make the motion, including that change and the changes that Gay enumerated for us, to reintroduce this ordinance tonight for a vote at the next meeting.
And you are allowed to do that before the second. Go ahead, second.
Yeah.
Just, again, placing on the record my objection, my
Yes.
remaining objection to the ordinance, especially with regard to preemption.
Okay.
I just said, there's just
Can we-
one issue, that the mayor and township council on this exemption thing, that is really not right. I mean, if you're going to
Okay,
reintroduce
if
something,
And
we're
the
going to
property maintenance
then it should
official.
be the mayor, not
Okay.
the township council, because that is a big
Linda, would you make
deal.
a motion to take out or count
wait.
township council?
Yeah, I make a motion, to take out
And
the
I'll
township
second
council.
it.
That's really an
Let's vote
executive
on that.
branch thing.
Hold on. I just wanted to know I'm in the right spot. Okay. Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
that's removing or township council, right?
Right.
Correct.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right, because tomorrow,
We got this time.
tomorrow I have elections. So we're- Okay. I have to go see the voting machines.
Did you want to do
Okay.
anything with property maintenance official?
Well, if we're going to do that, since we don't have a property maintenance official, should we say the administrator or his or her designee?
Administrator's job is not to enforce.
No.
Okay, then I don't know who to do, so let's leave it and we'll fix it later. Okay, so
just
Aisha,
unbelievable.
you want to...
I made the motion.
Make the motion to reintroduce.
I second.
Let's vote on
Well,
this.
is it to reintroduce, or is it a new introduction of a new ordinance?
The old one's
It's
gone.
an
It's actually a
introduction. You're not
new-
reintroducing an old ordinance, you're introducing what is really a new ordinance.
Tonight.
Right,
Tonight, yeah.
which is,
Is it introduced as
and
amended?
it's okay, because
Technically?
You can do it
Because
as
we're-
amended.
The other ones,
Because
As
I
a
want to
third-
keep it.
third-
No,
Mike,
I'm going to make the motion to introduce it as amended
Right.
per Gay's instructions.
can I just ask you one question?
just think
Because,
that's
because there's
clearer.
nothing, usually when you introduce an ordinance, right, which is what we're really kind of created in a little bit different ordinance,
As amended.
as
We
amended,
do that
it's not-
all the time.
Yes, we
Should that
do.
be on the next agenda?
No.
Because no one
dear-
has seen that from the
Linda,
public.
Linda,
I'm just
I
asking,
will deal
asking a
with
legal
this.
question.
Ask the question.
I don't object to putting
The
on.
rule is 2 weeks.
Yeah. The what?
The rule is 2 weeks.
What do you mean, 2 weeks?
2 weeks from
From
introduction.
Well, yes, but I'm saying.
It'll be 3 weeks, but that's
I'm
beside
saying
Yeah,
there's
but I'm
not.
saying-
well, she's saying it doesn't have to be posted before you put it on
Yeah,
to
you
it.
vote, you usually
No,
vote, in
it does
2
not.
weeks you usually vote.
It's
It's
an
okay to
introduction,
do
it does
this?
not have to be posted.
So somebody could come into, like,
All right.
any council meeting, so I could come in and just give you, right now, an ordinance and say, let's introduce it tonight.
You actually
That's-
could.
That's why you have the 2-week period, at
Public
least the
hearings.
2-week period, so that if there are objections or observations or anything like that, you have the 2 weeks before the hearing.
And it doesn't violate the
It does not.
sunshine thing of having it noticed or anything.
With a resolution, you would worry, there's some things in there you have to worry about, but for an ordinance, no, you can introduce an ordinance anytime.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. I'm wondering what comes next.
The vote.
Are we ready?
I remember we discussed it.
Okay, we're ready. We have a motion, we have a second to
Second.
introduce as amended with all of the corrections that I spoke about. Jeevers,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Manzara,
No.
Zhang,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Public hearing will be November 18th, 2018. Madam
Thank you,
President, can we have a 5-minute break?
We can have a 5-minute break,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
sorry. It's only fair. Oh, I got one of those.
We've done a resolution to the state. Sausage making there. Yeah, well.
You're tired.
I totally forgot. I never did that. No, we should, it should be good. It just happens that
It's a pretty, probably a short frame in here. Well, part of the problem is I also can't respond because I've got access to a lot of So I have a night meeting tomorrow night for Clarksville and the regulation homeowner, so I'm
Yeah, I don't think it did either, but yeah, just be careful. Yeah, me too.
Well, at least I have it. I've been consistent. You know, hopefully people is going to do it. I didn't think they use their attorney for anything. Yeah, but even then it would. It's the last.
Okay, folks, let's get this show on the road again. Where are we?
Madam President, I just want to clarify that public hearing will be November 18th, 2019. Somebody thought they heard me say 18, and I can't remember at this point, so just to clarify for the record.
Well, that's the next meeting, is November 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we are up to the consent agenda.
2019 R237, approving the request for a permit from Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for a public fireworks display on November 2nd, 2019 at Mercer County Park. Bills and claims.
Would anybody like to say anything about any item on the consent agenda? Obviously not. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jeevers.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
2019 R229, authorizing the business administrator to purchase computer equipment for the Senior Center Computer Lab from CDW Government, and authorizing the chief financial officer to increase the purchase order by $3,675 for a total not to exceed of $65,566. 2019 R230, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the West Windsor Township Professional Firefighters Association Local 3610 of the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, for the contract period of January 1, 2019 through December 31st, 2022. 2019 R231, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a one-year contract with Princeton Air Conditioning for maintenance and service of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems for various township buildings for the contract period of January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, $47,304. 2019 R232, authorizing the Township Council to reject all bids for the project known as Rebid Pole Barn Garage. 2019 R233, authorizing the mayor and clerk to extend the memorandum of understanding between the Township of West Windsor and the Historical Society of West Windsor for the second two-year extension period until December 31st, 2021, and increase the use of the three-bay garage from one bay to two bays. 2019 R234, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a developer's agreement with Bear Brook Homes, LLC, PB 16-12. 2019 R235, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a contract with MNC Concrete, LLC, for the 2019 sidewalk repair program, $95,880.
Does anyone want to pull anything from this recommendations list? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yep.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
2019-35, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 4, Article 8, Department of Public Safety, Section 4-34, Division of Fire and Emergency Services of the Code of the Township of West Windsor.
Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Jeevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yep.
Manzara.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Public hearing November 18th, 2019.
Additional public comment, would you like to say something? Okay.
Thank you.
Additional public comment, Mike, would you like to say something? Oh, okay, thank you. Council reports. Aisha?
Nothing.
Virginia?
Yes. Parking Authority met October 16th, adopted the audit, and introduced the budget for 2020. They signed a snow contract, and they talked a little bit about the upcoming bridge closures and its impact. The next meeting was moved to November 6th, in case anybody wishes to attend that. And then got a little bit of information on North Post Road. I know some people have been asking about that traffic situation there. North Post, that's the one right here, right?
Right.
Yes. My understanding is that the county engineer and our traffic department, the police department have been discussing some ideas for solutions to figure out how to deal with that there. More to come on that, hopefully
What
soon.
specifically at North Post Road?
They're looking at some solutions to the problem with, people can't turn.
Turn left.
Yeah,
right.
so they're looking at that.
They're
And-
looking at that. Good.
Yes, and then as soon as I hear anything, or I'm sure Marlene or whoever hears it first will let us know. And then Rec Commission will meet on Wednesday, November 6th, and that's it.
Thank you. YC?
There were no meetings for me for the last 2 weeks because the last meeting we had a conflict with a school board meeting, but tomorrow I'll go to the school board meeting.
Okay. Linda?
The planning board met on October 23rd. It heard a courtesy review from the Princeton National Rowing Center on behalf of Mercer County. There was a proposed expansion of nearly 41,000 square feet addition to the existing building, and this is at the Casperson Rowing Center. There'll be 128 paid parking spaces, 81 gravel spaces. The board voted to unanimously approve the plans that are consistent with the master plan. The board also unanimously voted to approve changes to Target's exterior building signage, painting, and light fixtures.
I have no report. We're up to the best practices discussion.
Okay, under separate cover, council was provided with the best practices inventory that Joanne Loth and myself completed with the assistance of department heads and division managers. The total number of points that the township received were totaled 41.5 out of a total of 46 points. There were two categories of questions that were asked. They had to do with core competencies and then best practices. And the core competencies were in areas of statutory and regulatory compliance and other issues critical to sound municipal finance and operations. The best practices category included fiscal and operational practices that could be of significant benefit to many municipalities, but may not have necessarily been uniformly applied to all municipalities. I was pleased to find out that we scored in those areas under best practices because we are in the forefront of shared services and the like. The purpose of the best practices inventory is it's a tool that the state of New Jersey utilizes in order to make a decision as to whether or not it will release the final payment of COMTRA and ETR. COMTRA aid is Consolidated Municipal Property Tax Relief Aid, and the ETR payment is the Energy Tax Receipts payment. So there were 84 questions total. A lot of the questions towards the end of the best practices had to do with the purpose was to gather information for the state in order to make a decision as to whether or not there were areas whereby technical assistance would need to be provided. A lot of the questions in that section were primarily geared at the more distressed urban areas of the state as opposed to a community like West Windsor. So considering that that the total score was 46 points, I believe that the township scored extremely well. The fact that this is on the agenda tonight is so that the township council is aware of the findings of the assessment that Joanne and I completed. I'm pleased to report that the township will not have any of its final aid withheld, and it is also important to note that this was on the agenda tonight so that the public had the opportunity to hear the results of the assessment, and the clerk has to also attest to the fact that this was appeared on the agenda and that there will be minutes mentioning the fact that this discussion did take place. I will tell you that the past few years, it's been very difficult to make a comparison among the different best practices inventories because the state keeps modifying the format of it. This is the first one whereby they had over 40 questions that were survey-like in nature and really had no scoring component whatsoever. I can attempt to answer your questions.
Can you just repeat, we scored what, 41 out of?
There were a total of
46, and we scored what, 41.5?
41.5.
Well, we're pretty good.
I'm sorry. There is a total of 53 scored questions for a total of 46 points. So out of a total of 46 points, we scored 41.5.
Is there just for the public, any major changes that we need to do?
Again, you can't compare one inventory to another. The questions change. Some of the questions that the state had asked for a couple of years in a row have been removed because, according to the local finance notice, the state is of the opinion that, for the most part, municipalities and public authorities, for that matter, and local improvement authorities are in compliance with the best practices that had been, that municipalities had been questioned about in previous years. So,
Well, thank you for your hard work and the staff, on this, because it's a good score.
It's a very good score, and thank you for allowing us to be, for the work that you do in terms of being the checks and balances, because that's what it's about, internal controls and checks and balances. So I appreciate your assistance as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. So this will be submitted, we have to submit this electronically. The deadline is October 30th. I have to attest to it, as does Joanne Loth, our Chief Financial Officer, and Gay as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. So administration updates, do you have any other things to tell us?
No, I don't at this point. I'm sure the mayor will be asking for an update about the recycling ordinance, and I will have to provide him with said update, and I will do so.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Always in order.
Thank you.